look at this through. But I wanted to talk today about power dynamics through the lens of age. Does someone coming from a large age differential from someone have power over them, and in what direction? Does age gaps make it harder to have a relationship? We're going to be talking about all that and more. But before we begin, I want to give my lovely panelists a chance to have their opening thoughts on the matter, introduce themselves, etc. And we are going to start with last minute replacement Ice Beans, who, again, grateful for you being here. Rora got sick. She got COVID, so she couldn't make it. But Ice
Oh
Beans is
my.
here.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well,
What's your thoughts?
thank you for inviting me. You should have probably gone with me last because I'm probably sort of a centrist on this. I tend to take these cases on more or less a case by case basis. For the most part, if a couple is happy, then and they're both of legal age, then it's kind of whatever floats your boat. I do think that significant age gaps can have like logistical issues. They can have issues where you have missing shared experiences. I do think that there is some likelier, uh, like it's more likely that there would be controlling power dynamics going on there. And then of course you have like the general social pushback from all of it. But yeah, legally speaking, any adult is free to take all of that on. I am open to changing my mind about it. Sorry, it's not the spicy one way or the other.
It's your honest opinion. That's what we value here. I guess I would ask, right? Um, is this something you'd advise your friend if you had a young friend and a 60-year-old was looking to be in a relationship with them? What would you tell your friend? Would you say, go for it? We'll
So
watch
that would
out?
be yeah, so that would be the case by case basis, right? So if
Mm,
for me, if I can observe some couple in real life and like see how they treat each other and see how things like that. If it's where I can speak to that person, right? Or if this was my own daughter or some shit like that. But yeah, I would basically just make sure that they're happy and that they're not
okay.
in some kind of weird power dynamic, and then yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Next up, we have Julie. Hi.
Hi. Um, sorry. Fuck.
It's okay.
Hold on, give me a minute. I think age gap relationships, I think when you're like 30s and up, I think it's fine, but people in their early 20s still have a lot of learning to do before they get into like serious relationships and stuff. They have a lot of experiences they still need to have, I think, before people should settle down and have a family. I think, yeah, I think most people would agree someone in their early 20s being with someone in their late 30s is different than someone in their early 30s being someone in their late 40s. So I think after 30, I don't really care. But like, I'm 25 right now. If one of my friends came up to me and was like, "I'm dating someone in their that's 42," I'd be like, "Girl, come on." What?
Okay, well, I guess we'll get into it as we go. Elder Drowsy, thanks for muting yourself. I was confused whose dogs those were, but we figured that out. Appreciate you. No, that's okay, Elder Drowsy, since you're here now, go ahead. What's your thoughts?
Okay, I think that most of what I see on the internet when people respond to people having big age gaps is super performative. And if it's not, you should kind of just get with the whole program of America. If you're doing something that I don't like and it's totally legal, I should just mind my own fucking business. It's crazy the idea that we're going to condemn people or chastise them for having an age gap, because you can't condemn age gap dating as a whole without condemning the individuals. And if you meet somebody who's special and you think it's right, I think it's insane for somebody to step and say, "Whoa, you can't experience this." And if you are going to say that, there's a bunch of people like you'd say Beyonce and Jay Z shouldn't be together. What's his name? Elton John shouldn't have gotten married to his husband. These are all pretty big age gaps. I think that you can certainly have issues, but all the issues that you're going to find in age gap relationships are things we would condemn in any other relationship. And if you're just going to say that age gap is going to cause these things, I would say the burden of proof falls on you to prove that this is always a thing.
Okay, well, thank you for being here, and I guess we'll see how it goes. Brittany, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in spirit, if you are exceptional and you want to have an amazing relationship with someone, even with a large age gap, I think you should be allowed to do that in adult relationships. I do have a little bit of sussy baka energy though when I'm seeing those 50-year-olds or those 22-year-olds, because it begs too many questions that I think are fair to be asking, which is like, what do you have in common? Why are you interested? Why is this happening? I know so many of my friends in age gap relationships. I've been in some myself. So I know that for me, at least from what I've seen, is there is a disconnect when it comes to culture. There is a disconnect when it comes to generational hobbies. There is a disconnect when it comes to energy levels. So of course you can make a 50-year-old and a 25-year-old work. For 8 billion people on the planet, someone's going to work. The question is, are you that exception? And is it okay to explore it in the first place? Of course it's okay to explore it, but it's also okay to say, like, this isn't really my vibe. I think a lot of people who are the younger people tend to get into those relationships because they're looking for mentors. And so I really want to avoid that dynamic in a romantic one because I think it's a mistake. You usually grow out of it for a reason, but that's just what I've seen. So it's anecdotal.
We will get into it. And it's okay. We don't have to have studies and sources to back all this up. We are just talking about our thoughts. Last but certainly not least, irrelevant, please.
Yeah. So I think age gaps in relationships, I think it's going to be case by case, almost certainly. I will say that in age gaps, there is a lot of markers that would make it potentially so the power dynamic is abusable, but there's power dynamics in every single relationship, right? Just saying there is a power dynamic, therefore it's bad. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. But I will say there is some like a knowledge gap, probably a like gap in where people are financially. Like one of the biggest issues that age gap relationships, especially with individuals in their 20s, run into is that one person might have an established life, an apartment or a house or something like that, car, all these finances, and one other person might be just getting out of college and running with some debt. So there might be some issues with that, but again, this is more of just like a financial issue that would be between rich and poor anyway. So like it's like a marker for different issues that we would have to talk about individually anyway. So it's case by case, my opinion.
Okay. I guess I'll start off by asking this then, because a lot of people are saying case by case, it depends on the thing. I do want to talk about in general, and I also want to talk about older men or older women who specifically look for younger men or women, younger partners. Leonardo DiCaprio is a good example of this. Raise your hand if you think he's doing nothing wrong. Leonardo DiCaprio has done nothing wrong. He's totally okay.
Nothing wrong because the action is wrong, or you like, do I think that there's some trauma there?
That's actually a great. That's actually
That's
a
a good
great.
question. Well, answer it in both ways. I'm curious. What do you mean by that, Brittany?
Well, I don't think it's wrong for anyone to date a legal adult, right? I don't think there's like anything, but I think there's an indicator that he tends to date people about 25 and he doesn't seem to date people older. I think often in age gap relationships, from what I've seen, anecdotal, even using him as an example, usually there's something that's been stunted in the older person and they're relating to the person who's younger. And often the younger person, after they've matured past this older person, realizes this older person is stuck at a certain age, which is why they're dating that age group. So I feel like with Leo, from what I understand, even his past relationship, I think women have said that it's hard to date somebody who doesn't grow up. It's like a Peter Pan syndrome. And I think it shows in his choice of dating partners.
Isn't it
Oh,
possible
I
he
kind
just
of
likes
just
younger bodies?
I was kind of assuming that most people who date specific, okay, the way that Leo does it, where he drops them kind of as they're right about as when they're turning 25, to me speaks to more of like a, well, I like the fact that they aren't as experienced, or they're not as yeah, basically the experience. I'm looking for the inexperience. But I wouldn't have guessed trauma or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know if this is true, but allegedly in his last relationship, he did want to settle down, but she thought he was too immature. So like the question begs the like, and I guess I've seen it in my people. I've seen older people feel like they're more progressive in politics, so they date younger, but people their age aren't as progressive. So that's also something I've seen as well. Is like, what if you do if you're 50 and progressive?
Oh man, like that's a great excuse. Yeah, I'm really progressive, and that's why I'm at the 20-year-old college,
So wait, if it's an excuse, Wick, do
prowling
you
for
think it's
chicks,
bad to
right?
do the age gap thing then?
I think it's weird if you have someone going to a specifically younger crowd and then looking specifically in that market. I don't know if it's wrong necessarily, but there is something it sets off predatory vibes when I see that happening, if that makes sense.
For
When you
sure.
see a much older person, whether it man or woman, and they go into a much younger environment and they start uh, going on the prowl, so to speak.
Well,
It sets off alarm bells, and I think it's okay to
Well, I think
listen to your
also
gut.
for
Go ahead, Julie.
Leonardo specifically, I mean, he's barreling through women publicly. Like that's crazy. He's getting a new woman every year. Like I feel like that's
And
wild. Is that not
yeah,
wild?
How is anybody
Someone in
shocked by this? Like, how
Well,
are we not all like super conditioned to understand that like rich guys with a lot, like if you have a lot of money and fame, like they just want to date women that look a certain kind of way, and they're kind of put off by age, like aging skin and all that. They just want like arm candy. This seems like something that we're all like super familiar with, and we all just know that it happens. But when we talk about the individual, it's like, what? What? There must be something wrong with this guy. He doesn't act like how I understand every rich guy to act like, as I grew up in understanding how like rich and famous people. And I'm not saying
I
they all
think
do,
Not
but
all rich and
it's
famous
I think
people, right?
yeah,
Like
but
some of them
it's
have like aging relationships.
do we not understand that there's a trend for rich older men to be interested in younger women? And it seems like the
it's
thing that
not
they have in common is just like they don't want to date older women because they think that younger women are more attractive.
Are you making an argument that all men are going to grow old and ditch their wives for younger women?
No, I'm saying that it's weird to act like it's crazy. The idea is crazy that like rich older men want younger women because they find them more attractive. Like I feel like this is not a
Yeah,
crazy idea.
I don't
I
think it
think the
is
problem
crazy.
is
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
sorry. I don't think the problem is so much like Leo DiCaprio in the sense that like because who gives a fuck about Leo, right? It's more so the like so I would say the real world implications of it, like how in the past you would have like older guys who were in college hanging around the outside the high schools waiting for their girlfriends to be done with school, and now you don't see so much of that anymore, but it speaks to that same idea of like like socially push away people who do engage in these uh sort of targeting inexperience
so
or whatever else, right?
So, I don't. So, in the case of Leonardo DiCaprio, I'm kind of. It seems like I'm maybe of a similar mind when it comes to this as Elder Drazi, and if where you disconnect, let me know. All I see is a guy who probably just values an attractive woman so much so that he more than he maybe values having things in common. Possibly, maybe what Brittany was saying is true. Maybe he is like stunted, and maybe he actually does have a lot in common with these women, but it's because of something that's stunting him, and that's possible. But d- as far as I'm concerned, like all that I really need to make this work is he just wants really attractive women as a priority in comparison to possibly relating with them, and so he's just dating young women.
Is there something stunted about that? Like, is there something like unevolved in a way? Because it's so monkey brain to be like, I just want something hot. Like, you don't want anything of quality, just like something
Uh,
hot.
A weird judgment.
I don't know, maybe, but and the reason why is I don't know how many people with the level of influence and social approval that Leonardo DiCaprio has that wouldn't do it. Like, I genuinely don't know. I think most people would probably do what he's doing
Uh,
if they had the
can I
opportunity.
just
Here's
say
you
quick?
may $5 from Antonia Abrao to ask this, and I think it's a valid question. That's why I'm interrupting you. When a woman, usually over the age of 30, has this debate, do you think it's mostly out of concern for younger women, or is it just out of cope? And that is a question, right? Like we mentioned, well, I want to turn the question also on its head to you gentlemen, right? Like especially you, Elder Drazi. Elder
Yeah.
Drazi, you're saying, well, he just wants to date attractive women. Do you not think there are attractive women over the age of
Oh,
25?
so that's
Right?
actually what I was about to say. But
Oh,
what
go
I'm
ahead.
saying is that I think it's a lot more common that men think younger women are attractive. However, save for my wife, I have almost exclusively dated older my entire life. I generally find older women to be a lot more attractive than younger women, and it's weird because I'm starting to get to that age where like what I looked for is now like my age.
Mhm.
And so like ideal attractive body hasn't changed much for me. It's like the like mid 30s, upper 40s women. But I'm not crazy to think that this is what everybody wanted when they were 18, still when they're in their 20s or when they're in their 30s. I know what people talk about. I know what guys look at. But for me, this is just like I just veer off. But I'm not gonna say like Leo's crazy because he wants what I've understood most men for most of my life to desire. And I don't think that there has to be anything like super weird or wrong with you in that. I just think that like, the weirdest thing about it is that he's not acting like oh, it's just they just happen to be young. I think that the weird thing about it is that like he doesn't care what people think about it and he's okay owning it, more or less.
So when we like asked this question, because I was curious coming into this, what do we think success is? Because for short-term relationships, like physicality is all that. Like who cares? Like if you're hot, you're hot. Let's have sex. Let's do this. But if older men are going to think badly of women as they age, then they wouldn't make good partners because eventually we age. So I guess I'm concerned with men who only go for younger women because like those women get old. So again, like why are we dating younger and what are we offering people? Because I think any relationship could work for a temporary amount of time. So I think it also depends on like what kind of relationship are we aiming for?
So let's say that Leonardo DiCaprio is indeed aiming for longer term relationships. I think that there's a very real thing that happens where everybody sucks at the start of a relationship, in my opinion. We're all fucking ass. We pick like very specific, like he has to be tall, he has to do this, and of course it's like not as severe or whatever. And but like over a period of time, as you get to know somebody, that doesn't matter as much. Like if you meet somebody who's fits your exact blueprint for the partner that you want, and then things kind of like, I don't know, maybe they gain some weight and stuff like that a little bit later, it's not like, well, you're not the person I met instantly, so it's like whatever. You develop feelings for this person and then it becomes a little bit deeper. So looking for somebody initially on that basis of physical attractiveness, while I'll grant is definitely not a good blueprint at all for a long-term successful relationship, I would say that you can look for somebody that has those traits and then develop a deeper bond with that person that can become a successful long-term relationship. It's not likely, but it's something that absolutely can happen.
If I may, Julie, when I
Mhm.
messaged you about this, you said it gives you the ick, right? Like
Mhm.
the severe age gaps and things like that.
Mhm.
Can you explain why for us, just briefly, and then I have a question relating to it. So
I don't know, just the idea like if my friend told me she started meeting up with an older man and was dating a man like in his late 30s, I would definitely have the ick. I don't know, I'd just be weirded out about it. I'd be like, why is he dating someone in their 20s and why is she dating someone in their 30s? Like, can you find someone your own age? Like
do you think he would be possibly, or at least more likely to be kind of some sort of a predator or abusing her somehow?
No, I think there's a bigger chance for it to happen in age gap relationships
Mhm.
just because, especially people in their early 20s, don't really know how to be an adult. They're still learning. But I don't think that just because you're with someone that's younger than you, you're automatically an abuser or whatever.
Well, what about the other OA? And this was asked by someone in my chat in 500 bits, so $5 to say.
Hmm.
Um, why would we believe Leo to act predatory towards these women in regards to age and not these women in
I
regards to his
I think what
I,
I
age?
said
I
earlier,
wanted to
because
get to that as
because he's
well.
I think it's because he's barreling through them. He's just new one, new one, new
Well,
one, new one.
I think
Sure.
that okay, so like to be quite honest, right? Especially when you're in your 20s, right? Or in early 20s. Like I guess how much agency would you say that you have compared to whatever age Leo is now, right? Or even wherever you are currently compared to when you were in your 20s.
But
We
I don't want this to just be about Leo because this question's more than like
Yeah,
that.
that's fair. No,
Hmm.
I'd like to get off Leo. Like I'd
Yeah,
like to
yeah, yeah.
hop off of Leo's dick, basically. But because I don't think that he's representative of like the it, relationships that we're talking about.
I guess I guess what I'm asking is, are younger 20, 25-year-old women who
I think it's just women.
specifically, or men, like younger people who specifically advertise themselves as basically sex objects for older people, are they engaging in predatory behavior?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it can
What does
go
that
both
mean?
ways, right?
Yeah, I'm confused. I'm confused.
Like sex workers?
Yeah,
Would you? Yes. Would you?
We're
maybe
selling a
not.
brand?
It may not even be sex work, right? It may be someone who's like a gold digger, as they say, right?
Oh, well,
Someone
all
who's
gold diggers
looking.
are unethical in my opinion. So
Okay.
That's
You,
kind of what I
Uh, uh,
mean.
uh,
We would say it's bad no matter what,
unless
right?
the men are in
yes,
on it and they're
that's
good with it. Like if the men are in
this
on it,
is
then I'm fine.
so I will when I say yes, it's in this context. If we agree that like these age gap relationships are like, oh, there's probably something wrong with Leo. There has to be something wrong with you then if you're an attractive young person seeking out somebody with resources. And I don't think that this has to. I don't think this is the case. But the reason why I answered it yes is because if we agree that there has to be something wrong with him, there has to be something wrong with this person. Just date somebody you like. Why are you dating somebody with resources? It's understandable. You have a marketable skill or a trait, in this case being incredibly attractive and maintaining that attraction, and you're using it to be able to, I don't know, maybe get money or to date somebody that is very desirable or to do whatever. That's what you're doing. And the same thing is that these influential rich people are doing who are old. They're like, I got a lot of stuff, a lot of people want me, I'm just gonna kind of do whatever the hell I want. And then so
Well,
they're gonna date
I think
somebody who,
that's what I mean though when I say agency, because like essentially like, okay, are we like, you know, and I could be wrong about this, right? But if, especially with Leo being as influential as he is, or like, you know, he is as rich as he is, so for me, it's like he has sort of the pick of the litter, right?
yep,
So if, you know, if he was, he could be incredibly naive about someone just out for his money, right? And he's just taking on these people and then dropping them. But that's, I think I tend to attribute to him like some more level of agency because he has more of the power. Obviously, it could be reversed. Like this could be completely reversed. But if somebody's just openly kind of going for him for his money, I would imagine that he could maybe see that coming. But it's not so much the other way around where you have a younger person who maybe doesn't see the power dynamic that's been put on them. Not that that means that nobody's out there looking for money, but I don't know.
Well, even
I'm
minus
sure.
money, it's just like the toxicity of the younger person seeking like a parent figure or a
Mm-hmm.
mentor or like teach me your ways. But if we go even to a healthy one, what if we're like, because there's a lot of age gap relationships in my audience, and I want to make sure that they're represented as like there could be a healthy version. I don't know. They actually wanted to know, have any of you guys been in age gap relationships, and like what was the largest one? Like mine was 12 years and I was in my mid 20s and he was nearing 40. And that was my largest age gap relationship. Taught me a lot about things, but we weren't growing at the same pace, right? So it was different. What about anyone else?
Oh yeah, 17 years. My first
I'd say
wife. Oh,
no. Go ahead,
Uh,
Drazi. I was cutting you off.
my first wife was 39 and I was 22 when I got with her, and it's funny because there's a lot of things that people would like to assume about the two of us, and make like a lot of weird judgments. And I think we both brought different things that the other person thought was appealing. Like obviously I'm 22, I didn't have my own place. She had her own place. Like if you knew us at all, you'd know that she was like really sexually demanding. I was really young. She was like in her late 30s, so like it seemed like that worked out really well. So there's a lot of nuance and things that go on in relationships where people are going to think, oh, they're with this person because of that, because of that. But it's really an amalgamation of different things that you like in the person. There might be certain benefits that you get because of that, because you're together. But I don't think it's fair to say that like, here's the reason why they're together. The reason why I got married to her, we got married to each other, is because that we fell in love with each other. And despite the fact that there's 17 years separating us, and there's certainly challenges when you have an age gap that big, but I think that was up to the two of us if we were willing to put up with it, and I don't think it makes us like weird or shitty people. And I don't think she was predatory.
Do we see any difference at all in gender, right? So one of my super chats asked this, but then I have a question related to that. Gender doesn't have to play into this to talk about age gaps. Madonna comes to mind, as well as Holland Taylor. What does the panel think? And I guess I would ask, if an older woman specifically targets and looks for younger men, is that better, worse, or the same than an older man specifically targeting and looking for younger women? What do we think?
I'd say the same.
Yeah, I'd say the same.
It's
Yeah.
like I'd apply the same lens.
Yeah.
It's the same,
So,
but
yeah.
it feels worse. Like, let's be real. Everybody
It
feels a little
worse?
bit
What do you
worse.
mean
Yeah,
feels worse?
you feel that feeling in your chest
Mm.
because, like, I think everybody
I think
might
socially
want to say.
we
Yeah, I think you're gonna say what I'm gonna say. Like, we think of the man as being like predatory when it's like that because it just feels like that. It feels like an old guy creeping on a school or something because we just have this weird feeling that's like that. But when everybody here is being rational and we're talking about it, we're like, it is the same. It really is. Women can be predatory. They can have their interest at heart. But I think we just typically see men as this sort of like predatory role, even in like normal relationships. So it's super easy to impose this like maliciousness onto men when there's an age gap and say like, here's the reason I know it is.
Yes,
Well,
but
I
that
mean-
comes from our society, right, Elder? Like, I mean, when I was growing up, like, I could never really go anywhere without getting 1,001 questions about where I was going, what I was doing, who I was doing it with. And, you know, if I had been a guy, I 100% would have not gotten those questions. And obviously, that kind of thing is very dependent on cultural and, like, social factors. But in general, we just give more agency to guys than to girls. And I think that's the answer there, right?
You think it's because
I
the
don't-
world's safer for men? Like, undebatably, like the world is just safer if you're a man.
What?
It's not sure.
Let's
slow that
it's the
down.
opposite.
Yeah. That's
Like you said, like you're getting a bunch of questions when you go out, but like it's not like that if you're a guy. It's because you're not generally worried that like a man. You're not worried in the same way that a man's going to be assaulted when they go out and stuff. You're not gonna
You
have those
should
same
be.
kind of
They're
things.
much
Yeah.
more likely to be.
Yeah, we're
right?
we're
Like a
much more
man
likely
is
to
much
be
more likely to be
physically.
Sorry,
assaulted,
when I
physically
was-
hurt
I was trying to be
outside.
soft about it. I'm saying we're not as worried about men being like sexually assaulted when they go out of the
For
house.
sure.
Things like that.
Yeah,
And
it's,
that-
assaulted
which is
for
something
people
literally
care
no
more
reason.
about.
Assaulted for literally no reason or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been assaulted because I walked down the wrong street or because I talked to the wrong person. But like women will generally get assaulted for breathing air inside of a wherever. And so yeah, for literally no reason, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and I
I
think
mean,
that's
I-
what people worry about more.
The sexual assault thing, yeah, I can agree. Like in that's sort of the underlying unspoken question of it all in a way. In
Yeah,
some
that's
of
what I was
these,
asking. Do you think that's the
Yes.
reason why?
Yeah,
comment.
and you know, in my case, it's a specific like combination of factors where I am actually dependent on a man to get around. Right, I lived in a country where women can't drive, so literally, if I need to go anywhere, I can't drive myself. So it's something like that. But in that case, yes, I have less agency. Period. Right.
Wait,
So
what country is that?
Saudi Arabia.
Is
You're
that
not
still
there,
a
right?
thing?
No, they did let women drive after I left, of course. Very convenient.
I'm sorry about
You're not still there, right? We're not about to get an
No,
angry
no,
email
no.
saying we're breaking the law by letting you talk freely
No,
about
no,
this stuff.
no.
Okay.
I don't care what Saudi Arabia thinks. I'd let Ice Bean speak. Okay.
What they do to the
wow.
journalists,
Oh, that's
Being
man?
a Chadwick.
I know. I could say that easily because it's not an actual thing, and I am in absolutely no danger. Couple more super chats to get through, and let me get through them. $5 from Fairy Queen to ask: is it fair to subject one partner to potential caregiving in old age due to a massive age gap in the relationship? And $5 from Bruno Goats to ask: if dating apps allow these age gaps, but the idea of it is seen as problematic, should we have institutions curb this behavior? Why or why not? And I'm curious your answers to both, especially to Fairy Queens. Like, is it fair for an older person to ask a younger person, knowing that, again, they're going to be subjected to kind of long-term elderly care in the near future in some of these cases? What do you think?
Well, that's what I was concerned about when I said, like, what are we doing here, right? Because I think well, I'm all about like stay together till you die kind of thing. So I don't see anything wrong with it, obviously. But do they know they're signing up for that? Like, do they know what they're signing up for, right? Because that's my concern, is not that they're in love, not that you're not going to be together for some time, but if you think you're going to grow old with this person, you have to recognize that if there is a 20-year gap, like you might not grow old with this person, right? They're going to grow old and you're going to watch them die, which is fine. We can do that. I think you can consent to that. I just want people to be prepared for what they're signing up for, because look, when you're dating Leo or someone hot when they're 50, George Clooney or something, and then they're 90 and you're still only 50, it's like we're having a different conversation about like what we're looking at here. So again, I'm open to all possibilities. Yeah, it's a big age gap. It's a big age gap.
I'm thinking like they'd have to start when she was 10.
Yeah, it's a big age
But
gap.
Oh, no.
we're not going to get into
Oh,
this.
no.
We're putting,
That's a big
we're
age
putting
gap. Wait.
aside
No, it's too
the-
big.
We're
But
assuming
yeah.
We're assuming this is all of age. They're
Yeah,
at least 18.
everyone's
We're
of
not
age.
gonna get
Everyone's
into
of age. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
just want people to be prepared because like it's not a problem falling in love. It's not a problem growing old with somebody. I just want everyone to be prepared, including
Yeah.
having children with somebody who's
Yeah,
older.
that's a good question, of is it fair for a 50-year-old man to have a kid with a 20-year-old woman, knowing by the time their kid's and a teenager, they're gonna be, like, in their 60s?
I'm 25. My dad's like 70. It's not a problem.
Not a big
It's
deal?
fine.
I
No.
personally, if I were to have children, I don't really like the idea of having like children when I'm very significantly older, because I really do like the idea of like if my kid wants to go play soccer, wants to go play football or something, that I can do that with them readily, and I'm physically able to do those things with them
Mm.
very easily. And if I'm like in my late 50s, I'm gonna be able to kind of do it, but I'm not, it's not gonna be the easiest task in the world. So, but that's more of a me thing, I don't want to. I want to have kids when I'm able to actually do things with them if I'm going to have them.
There's an interesting spin on that question. So you have a 50-year-old guy who wants to have a kid. Is he supposed to have a kid with a 50-year-old woman, and when the kid's 15, they're both 65? Now who are we having help this kid do the sports and stuff? So I mean, if you're gonna have one at that age, like it may be a little bit more advantageous to have one of the partners be a little bit younger.
When
Maybe
do you, if you did want kids, Eldrazi, would you have an age limit on women you'd be looking for?
Well, I think that if I was gonna have kids, me personally, I would feel a little weird if I'd have to look at like mortality rates and things like that, and otherwise I would just have to like probably look at adopting, because I would feel pretty weird
Based.
putting a woman's life in danger to have a kid for me, because I know that if you're in love, like that's going to be one of the kinds of situations where I understand that even me being honest can end up being manipulative. Like my wife loves me. I know my wife loves me. If she was like 47 and she's like, yeah, I looked at the data and I know that it's roughly like, I don't care. I'd rather die and give you the kid that you want, if that's what it's going to take, because I don't want you to die knowing that you didn't have, the child that you wanted in your life. Fuck that. Uh, that to me is shitty if you're willing to put your partner's life on the line so that you can have a kid, and knowingly at least. Complications come up, they come up, but yeah.
I
Okay.
generally
Okay.
agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basic.
I don't know. I think that like I'm not sure who mentioned it earlier, but it was a fair point. We are sitting here and we are being very rational about it, but I don't think people are rational about relationships in general. I don't think they're rational about. I'll just be frank with all of you. If my younger sister, right? If when I was younger, my younger sister had come home and said, "Hey, I'm dating a 50-year-old man," I would have a problem with that. I would have a serious problem with that. I would make a lot of assumptions. So it's possible this guy could change my mind, right? Like maybe he's the most well-adjusted, very nice guy, harmless gentleman you could ever meet. But I don't know. I think that it says something about someone who is willing to date extreme age gaps that may not be flattering to them in general. I think it does speak to character when someone's willing to date someone who is massively um, younger or older than they are. I don't know.
What do you think it says about them?
That's a good question. I think that if a, I'll tell you this, as a 40-year-old man, I just wouldn't date someone who is under 25 at all, ever, right? If an 18-year-old woman came to me, I would just like, "Nah, that's too the age gap's too much. You could be the smartest person I ever know, but yeah, you just getting out of high school. There's some issues here, right? Like, not only perception, but like just potential problems. And so for someone who is willing to overlook some of these huge potential red flags, I do think that says that they're maybe thinking with their little head instead of their big head a little more than they should. But yeah, that's my thoughts. What do you think, Julie?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm if someone way older than me came up to me like try to hit on me and shit, I'd like a man or a woman. I'd be like, don't you have like a pep rally to fucking organize? Like, what's going on here?
We keep talking
I
about
mean-
relationships like they can't just be sexual too. Like two people can't just want to fuck each other for like a year and a half and hang out a lot, and that's fine too.
What do you mean by
Well,
that?
Well, like we keep talking about
Like
relationships
Leo
in the context like they're
DiCaprio.
gonna end up in marriage, you know, like why is it crazy like if I meet somebody who's like 10 years older than me or whatever the age gap is, and it's like we both get along enough to where like we want to hang out and be like, but we're mostly hanging out because we really want to fuck each other, and we do this for like a year and a half, and like, all right, like I'll just have to say like you're a bit too wild for me. Like I can't deal with some of your issues, and like yeah, well I can't deal with you being like fat and having a bad back. We're gonna peace out. That's fine. I'm gonna take that, and I'm gonna cherish the time that I had. Like I had a bunch of fun. We did a bunch of like wild crazy sex. That's cool. No harm, no foul. Go on to like my next experience in life. Why is
I
that?
think
That
that
seems fine too.
that can be fun, but do you think most people are going into honestly any relationship that way? Most people? I don't think most people are. I think most people, when they're dating somebody, they're usually dating with some kind of long-term goal in mind. They're not like, yeah, I'm going to date this person for 2 years and then we're done
I think they leave it
at
up in
this
the air.
start.
I think that when it's like that, they just say like, "Well, we're just gonna go with the flow." I don't think they ever say like, "Yeah, we're gonna like cut it off in
Yeah,
2 years."
sure, but like, when you're 6 months in and stuff like that, you think that these people are still like, yeah, you know what, this will probably end sometime soon, but I'm just going to write it out. I think at some point when we're talking about the practicality of how most people, because I don't disagree with you, like in theory, or like that it could exist if it's well adjusted, but I think if we're talking ass meets grass, somebody who's in a 6 8 month relationship under this context are not thinking, yeah, I'm just having sex with this person because it's just like fun to have sex with them, and I think usually people are going to be more attracted to physically, if we're talking purely a sex and physically thing, to agers that are closer to them, generally speaking, right? So when I see some, like, let's say I see some guy who's 20
Wait,
dating what?
do you think that's true? Do you think a 50-year-old man is going to be more attracted in general to 50-year-old women than he is to
I guess,
20-year-old women?
I guess what I'm trying to say is for the younger
Physically,
party to
just for
be more.
sex, I'm talking, not
Yeah, no, no,
relationship, but yeah.
absolutely. But you're correct on that. What I'm saying though, in the context of this, is the younger person. There's one younger person in this age dynamic, so I'm generally assuming that the younger person isn't going to be attracted to the 20 plus year older person. So like the 20 year, let's say you have a 20-year-old man and a 40-year-old woman. If it's just exclusively a sexual relationship, I'm going to assume that that 20-year-old guy can probably find some people that he considers to be more attractive closer to his age, and vice versa. With a woman being 20, probably being able to find men that they find more attractive closer to their age.
Do
So
you
I'm
know
assuming there's
so
a little bit more than just sex going on.
hmm, go ahead, Ice Beans, you were about to say something?
I guess I was. I wanted. I guess I didn't understand Riley's point. Are you saying? Could you? I'm sorry. Could you restate that? I was just
Sure.
gonna.
Younger people inside of a relationship are probably, if we're talking exclusively for a sexual relationship, I'm assuming that these large age gaps are not going to be their sexual preference. So when I see
Mhm.
a 20-year-old dating a 40-year-old, my first thought isn't, yeah, they're clearly dating that 40-year-old because they think they're hot and they want to fuck them.
Gotcha.
My first thought is not going to be that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You ever have sex with a much older woman when you were like late teen, early 20s?
Bro, I don't have sex with women, bro. That's the
Oh,
me, bro.
I can
No,
say
but to be answered, the answer is no. I have like the largest age gap I think I've had is like a year and some change.
there's definitely an appeal to wanting to have sex with older women rather than women like right around your age, because women right around your age like are gonna be less experienced generally. Especially if you want any kind of like emotional care in addition to sex, like it's gonna be a lot harder to find when you're like 20 with another 20-year-old than if you have like a much older person
Y-
who
For
and not only that too, it might even be more comfortable to like ask for some of those things. There's a lot less pressure to uh like be cool or like play a role.
I mean, I'm maybe not of quite as steep of a similar opinion to you. I'm actually of a similar opinion to you, Elder Drowsy. I'm much more attracted to older women. My
Based.
thing, like in the mid 30s, late 30s range, I'm much more attracted to that, primarily because of maturity. I really don't like the maturity level of most 20-year-old people. It feels like go party sex or some whatever shit. That's what it feels like being a 20-year-old person near where 20-year-old people live, and it's just awful. It's absolutely dreadful. can't wait to be 30.
I mean, to tack on to what Wick was saying earlier, like the reason that I specifically wouldn't want to date sort of down is because like for me it's about experiences. It's about like, okay, have you lived by yourself, you know? Like, have you ever had to fucking pay a bill that was 2 months past its due? Like that sort of shit, you know? And if you don't have those experiences, then yeah, I might pursue like entirely sexual relationship with you, but that's not even gonna last long because I'm gonna get tired of that very quickly. I'm gonna want something that's a tiny bit more long lasting. Can I have a conversation with you? You know, that sort of thing. So, I guess even if they were smart and like they were like the smartest 18-year-old, that's only going to go so far for me because I'm going to want to connect over shared experiences.
Do you think that this is why? Because hearing all of you talking about this, like, well, we want older people because they're more mature and more experienced. Do you think that this is maybe why there are younger people, younger men, younger women who specifically will seek out older gentlemen, older women in order to have some sort of relationship with them? And if, right, as Brittany, you were saying, it's a little sussy baka, right, when you see it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with that information in mind, do you still think it's a little sussy baka though? Like, why wouldn't a 21-year-old who's a little more mature for their age want someone who's established in their 40s or maybe even 50s to start a relationship with?
Yeah, I think it's a little play on fantasy. As somebody who's been in age gap relationships, as somebody who recently put a limit on her age gap dating, I did 5 to 10 years. Like, I won't go past 10 years. I feel like 5 is perfect. Within 5 years is what I find in being 34, like pretty perfect. Because if they're way too in their 20s, like I am not 20s Britney anymore. I'm not interested in 20s lifestyle. I don't want 20 vibe in my life. And I'm not in my 40s yet. 40s Britney's going to be so different than this. So I need somebody I relate to. I want to come home to somebody who sees me, who knows how to humanize me, who knows my struggles, who doesn't care that I'm doing drama on YouTube, like who's in the vibe of like chill, you know? And that's just not going to be the mature 50-year-old. What is maturity if you're 50 and you're hanging out with 25-year-olds? What maturity are we talking about? If you're 50 and hanging out with 25, where's the maturity? You know what I mean?
It's person to
Actually,
person.
that's a good. Actually, that is a good point. I feel like actually, hold on. Does anyone remember that really fucking old Friends arc where like Ross was dating some fucking student,
Oh, yeah.
I
and
didn't
then
watch
he
that.
like
Mhm.
and he like suddenly realizes it when he goes over to her place and she's like engaged in a water balloon fight with like people outside on
Yeah.
the street, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, this is what I'm dating this. I guess that's something I didn't
To be
remember.
fair with that though, I feel that way, and I'm 26.
Right.
Like I'm not going out and I'm not doing like my roommate, right? He does some young people shit, you know, going to the club, doing fucking Molly, doing shrooms and all this fucking shit, getting high every single day. I'm in here just like, yes, I'm playing chess and learning poker.
Okay, what I
Like,
feel like a girl who's 30 would be great with you, or like
yeah,
28, 29, 30, like that range.
yeah, so yeah, and so to that point though, I don't think those huge gaps are necessary for like somebody of a similar position as me, where it's like, okay, well, I'm 26. Well, clearly there is a woman in her 50s is was it's like no, probably someone who is a little bit past the big party phase that a lot of it seems like a lot of people do in their 20s and stuff. That's probably more for me.
Would you
Um,
turn it down though? So say you go and you meet a girl at a bar
mhm.
and you hit it off and you could tell she's a little older. But then later on you find out, well, she's 50. She looks like it, she's in her mid 30s, attractive, things like that. Would you turn that down simply because of the age
No,
gap?
not on the age alone. It would
Mm.
have to. It would give me a little bit of a like. I don't know, because at that point, Almost certainly. I think if you're in your 50s as a woman, it's going to be difficult to be able to have kids. So I would need to think in that moment, am I going to make this serious? Because, like, I am pretty hard committing to not having kids without potential complications for the mother and stuff like that. Also, I need to think about, like, what Brittany said earlier, which I think is incredibly important. Am I ready to see this woman die 20 plus years before me? Am I ready for that? The possible love of my life to die 20 plus
You
years
get
before me?
two. Then you'll be older and you can prey on the
Bruh.
younger women, right? Like it's a win-win.
Wait, Wick, was
Yeah, I'm
the
gonna be a Leonardo, bro. He's
just
me.
asking him
I'm
if he would
him.
like wait, or sorry, irrelevant. I'm not sure if Wick meant like would you like date this person long term, but like would you hook
Oh,
up?
I only date long term. I don't do casual at all.
Wait, can
Well,
I
I
ask a
mean,
question? Can I derail and ask a question? Great. Okay. Do you guys think there's a difference between age gaps and just hooking up and age gaps in relationships, and is one
Yes.
worse than the other? What would be the difference there for you?
Fuck whoever you want. I don't care how old anyone is as long as it's legal. Even though it icks me out when it's under 18 to like such a T. And it does ick me out even if it's like 15, 18. It all icks. But I just, I understand. It's like fucking, right? But relationships, like that's where I'm like, okay, what are you doing here? Like, what are you promising this younger person? What are you promising this older person? Like, what are we even talking about? I'm going to die young with you or die old with you. Like, what does that mean? So then I even get more a little hostile. Again, everything can work. I don't want anyone listening to me thinking like, Brittany hates my relationship. I love your relationship. I just want there to be an openness about what's really happening. And also, I'm not going to lie to you. Maybe it's a little bit of bubble guilt here, but like, I'm trying to fathom explaining to like the people in my life. Here's my 7-year-old friend with his 20-year-old girlfriend. Because like in my bubble, we do not look favorably on huge age gap relationships. Like it's even though there's like 10, 20, even 15 years with some of our relatives. One time, one of our uncles brought home a girl who was like literally 50 years younger. And we all were like, what are you doing? And what did she do? What did she do? Used him for his money and divorced him and then put him in a senior citizen home.
Sorry, I don't
Okay.
mean to laugh.
Jesus
Okay.
Oofa doofa.
Christ.
Ruthless.
Damn.
Ruthless, these age gap relationships.
this can
I mean,
happen
did
no
he
matter
know
what.
going in? Like, if that was the deal, that was the deal, right?
You-
Like,
How
you think
Brittany?
though
How
with,
old
like-
was the
well,
guy? How
well,
old?
if I
How
may.
old was he?
He was in his 70s. She was
Jesus,
24.
okay.
Oh wow.
Did
Oh,
you
wow.
ask him if he thought it was worth it?
No,
Because he
no.
might be
no,
like,
'cause
I'd do it again. I don't give a shit.
he got freaking Alzheimer's, so he doesn't remember.
Oh
Oh,
no.
Buddy.
Oh, this story just
So-
got sad.
So then,
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
downside for him is only a downside for everybody else. He just got to do what he wanted, and then when it got bad, and he's in the old person's home. Like that's it. He doesn't have to experience that most
Yeah,
of the
but okay,
time.
No
I'm
way,
romantic. I feel
bruh.
like she should be with him and take care of him through his Alzheimer's and love him through his Alzheimer's.
Is that
Because there's
fair to ask of someone though?
yes,
Right.
Are you in love? What is
If
this a joke?
you're signing
Love is
up,
not a
I
joke.
think if you're signing up for it, then yeah, sure, why
I
not?
think she signed up for the money in this scenario.
You can consent to what you think it's going to be. Like, I know for a fact my wife is in for a rough ride when I'm old, because I've told her, like, I'm already, like, once I hit 50, I'm going to start fucking around, acting like I got dementia. I'm going to lie to her and tell her that, like I'm going to walk up to people and, like, be weird and just to fuck with her. So, like, she's going to be fucked up. She's not going to know if I'm actually losing my mind or not. So, like, if she decides she can't handle that, then, like, I get it. She didn't fuck me over, but, like, I'm a goofy guy. I'm going to act goofy when I'm old. And, like, if she can't hack it, then, like, I love her to death for putting up with me as long as she did.
Okay,
She's
so I
not
think
wrong
this is
for that.
this is going to be the disconnect, right? Like when I say like what are we doing here? What are we getting into relationships for? Like I want to see you to the end of my life and vice versa. If you need care, if you need medical bills, if we have a disabled child, like there's no room except in abusive situations for us not to be together. So I don't do temporary relationships, but I understand that other people do. So again, if you're not doing temporary, I think the rules are just different.
Let's reverse that a little bit. So there's two things I want to tackle here. The first one, which I guess I'll start with first. I have been in strictly physical relationships that don't stay strictly physical. Emotions, bonds are formed, and so even if you're trying to stay strictly physical, there's always a quote unquote risk, and it's a weird word to say in this context, a risk of catching feels, as the young kids say.
Not
And
the
so
feels.
even in the strictly physical relationships, I don't know. I don't know if it's a like we should keep that in mind, the age gap possibilities. And if you wouldn't be okay with the age gap, if it were a romantic relationship, you should really think twice if it's just for sex, basically. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to tackle is kind of tangential. But Brittany, let's turn this on its head. Like, if your partner is sick, you'd obviously want to take care of them. You wanted to sacrifice to help them out. But if I got sick, debilitatingly sick, where I could not perform, function, and be the same person that I was before, like if I got Alzheimer's or cerebral palsy or any number of diseases, right? I would feel it to be a selfish act to ask or expect my partner to stay with me. If I love them, I'd want them to go find someone they could be happy with.
But they love you regardless through sickness and health, right? They love you regardless of what's going on.
Isn't it
Right?
human want both?
Do they?
Yeah, I would think so.
you?
I wouldn't leave someone just because they got
Go ahead.
cerebral palsy.
I
What
want
the
to hear
fuck?
Irrelevant. I want to hear Irrelevant has some Irrelevant's cooking. I hear his brain
It's
sizzling. I want to hear it.
because in my mind, you fall in love with the person, their personality traits, their quirks, the things that they do, those moments that you can share together, maybe the way that their humor and stuff like that, and you grow to love them. Let's say most of that is good, like with a crazy disease like Alzheimer's, right? Like most of that is gone. Like they're a lot of the things that you loved and you grew to love about them are gone and no longer exist.
If I really loved someone, I wouldn't leave them because they got Alzheimer's. That's fucking
Well,
crazy.
would you not leave them because of some loyalty that you have to the person, or
No, I love
because
them regardless of whatever they have going on.
okay, so then let's change the question. Let's say somebody you love changes their entire personality. Would you still
Is it
love them?
because of are
Not
they
because of a
changing?
disease.
They're just being a dick to be a dick?
No, not even being a dick. They just change. They're no longer really funny. They're not really. You guys don't really
Well, what
have stuff in
happened?
common. You like
There
grow
has to be
apart.
something that happened, right?
You
There
like
has to be
grow
something
apart.
that changed them. There has to be something that changed them that can help me to understand why they are the way that they are.
Let's say they found a new friend group and they started to find new hobbies. You start growing apart. with
Okay,
it,
so it
you're-
depends on what their hobbies are. Are their hobbies really fucked up, and are they things that
What
make
if
you
they change
uncomfortable?
political parties? What if they come out as the
They
opposite
find
of political party
Jesus.
you like?
No, political parties
Like,
doesn't.
Jesus.
That's an
As long
initiative.
as their political opinions don't stop me from living the way I want to live my life. Like if they're against abortion, but like I can if they, like then I can still get abortion, sure, whatever.
So
I feel like, just to answer your question a bit, I feel like especially if you're with a person for the long term, right, and you're experiencing the same things that they are, I don't see how likely it is for someone to have such a dramatic shift in personality if there wasn't some kind of thing that
people
causes
naturally
the
grow
shift.
apart, don't they?
Yeah,
All the
yeah.
time.
Oh, no, absolutely, right? But I'm just saying that, like, if, for example, like we lost a child, like my husband and I lost a child, and that's something that we're sharing together. Now, that could be the reason that maybe I go off the deep end, and my husband doesn't want to be with me anymore, for example. But apart from that, I'm struggling to find like something that would cause such a huge growing apart to the point where you're saying like, at what point is it okay to leave? I guess.
Well, I don't know. In my mind, usually when people are in long-term relationships with another person, it's because they like some aspects of their personality, maybe relating to them, sharing certain things with them, and growing apart could look like them changing their hobbies. And let's say you're a very indoor person. You enjoy spending your time reading with this person and maybe creating works of art with them. Maybe making some music, stuff like that, watching TV shows. Let's say that they start adopting almost exclusively outdoor hobbies and they want to become like a hermit. They want to go out to the woods and they want to do these things for the vast majority of their day. And so you start spending less and less time together, like doing those things. Is
Yeah, and
that
I think that in that case, that you're gonna have to have like a reevaluation, right? You're gonna have to say like, okay, well, we're not spending as much time anymore because of this new hobby that I have, and you are gonna have to sit down and basically be like, okay, how can we grow with this change that's in our lives now? And I guess if you can't get over your differences, then you can't get over your differences. But I think that most people in a long-term relationship would try to get over that difference or to
of
make it up
course?
in some way so that they can have their conflicting hobbies and still connect and want to stay with each other, right? I think that's what most long-term couples do.
So
Yeah.
Um,
the the whole point of what I'm trying to say is it seems like people tend to fall in love with a person based on their personality, the ways that certain things about them that make them quite unique, like their quirks, whatever. And if these things change, it's so much so that they're almost unrecognizable to who they were in the past, like in the case with a lot of people with Alzheimer's. My mother has it. I promise you, she is not at all the same woman that she was even 6 years ago, right? If this happens, I don't. I think it is understandable why somebody would be like, yeah, I don't really want to stick by this person as fucked up as it is. I don't
I
think they
think
should,
if it's like a
but
really drastic change, that makes sense. But if it's gradual and it's over time and you kind of grow with the person, because people are changing constantly all the time. If it's gradual and over time, it makes sense. If it's drastic, sure, like I understand being confused and wanting to break up over it or whatever. But I think the majority of people, change over time and they get different hobbies and different things. You like the person for who they are, not their hobbies and shit, right?
yeah, well, what I'm asking is, what is who they are, and
Uh,
does that not?
The way that they make you feel.
Yeah, well, do you
Well,
want to? I see,
It's
Brittany.
their soul irrelevant. She's saying it's their soul that matters.
Not the soul. I'm gonna go.
No,
It's
like,
the only thing that
literally-
fits all the stuff you're saying.
That's the thing, though. Like, do we believe in individual? Like, do I think nobody is irrelevant? Like, do I think irrelevant is a specific, unique person?
Do you?
Yes. Like, I
Like,
don't think I can replace irrelevant with somebody who's irrelevant. Like, no one can
I mean,
be
I
irrelevant.
can. That's what I do all the time on panels when people ditch me and
You
stuff, and like I
fucking
just slot them in.
piece of shit.
Irrelevant can
Fungible
replace
commodities.
irrelevant with somebody who's irrelevant like and less like irrelevant is now. That's what he's saying, is that nobody can replace me except for me. I can, that like the person I am today can die, and the person I am 10 years from now could just be another person sitting in my seat.
Yeah, I think what's important again is like, why are we getting married, or why are we committing ourselves to people, or why are we living long-term relationships with people? Like, again, and maybe it's just my relationship, but we got married with vows of in sickness and in health. And it's this idea of like, we do live in Europe kind of with the hope that if one of us does end up going in our mind, we could maybe get end of life care and maybe a dignified way of dying preemptively, because they have assisted death here. And so we're kind of hoping that that's something we could look forward to if we are unable to like care for each other. But
Wick
ultimately,
fuming in the corner. Sorry.
No, we're not. That's a different debate. We're gonna stick on what we're doing.
Well,
But
okay.
go on, please.
But this, so we've thought of everything ahead of time, because look, I am terrified of being put in a home, and I'm terrified of being given to my parents who are aging, and I'm terrified of being a burden on anyone else but the man who promised to let me be a burden on him. And so we're making that vow together to be each other's favorite burden. And so we're making that decision.
But
Yeah,
do they get
so-
power of attorney? If you're like lost your mind, you'd be like, no, she's just kill her. It's cool. Like,
Yeah.
she's
let
not
me
even gonna
go.
know. Fuck it, I'm not doing this. Is that how that works?
No, like literally how it works. Do you mean like assisted death?
Well, yeah, with like power of attorney and all that. Can you just exit that responsibility that Wick's talking about? Which, by the way, Wick, I think you're full of shit. I think you want them to stay and take care of you, and you want both. You want them to go be happy, but you also want them with you.
I think no. I'll say this to because we're
little
not
too
doing
stoic.
the end of life care debate. We're not doing that. But I will say that, like, again, right? I think it would be the height of selfishness if I were to be in a situation where I could no longer function or do what I need, and they could leave me but made sure I was taken care of, then by all means do what they got to do, right? Like, it would be wrong of me, it would be immoral of me to ask them to pressure them into staying when they were no longer wanted.
But what about what you
wanted to be
Wick,
want.
they agreed to it. No, Wick,
Well-
what if they are agreeing to it? This
What do
is
you
the
mean?
marriage. This is the marriage contract, right?
I think that that would create like undue pressures, whereas if it did not exist, they would normally not. And so I would pressure them. I would put pressure the other way.
Hold on a second.
Again,
But
I
this
think
is
it'd
what.
be let me finish. I think it would be the height of selfishness if I demanded that they had to stay because they made a promise when we were both 20 years old, right?
That's
So-
true, but you said you'd want them to go. So like I feel like
Yes,
you'd be
I
like
think it
me
would
and be
be-
like, I want you to go live
Well,
your life.
I wouldn't want them to go is a weird question, but like I would want them to find happiness outside of me, because I know with me they could no longer have the same experience they once did, so they'd no longer be happy.
But they
right?
want to experience you.
I
They
think we're on the same
can
page.
like, but not in the same way, because that choice to experience me has been taken from them because of the disease, right? It's been taken from them. Like
Well,
from
if
us
that's
both.
the case, then we should just kill people who are terminally ill or have Alzheimer's or dementia.
Made. Shouts out to
No,
Canada.
because
Just
I
basically
still
take
want to
away their
live.
dignity as a
I still want
consciousness.
to
Either they're
live.
valuable
I
or
just don't
not.
want to drag everyone down with me, right?
No, look, I don't know how to say it, but my husband has already said he literally wants me to live forever. So he wants to keep me alive in case there's a cure, even if I'm in the middle of Alzheimer's. So he
Oh,
can do what he
no.
wants.
W.
He can do what he wants, but I swear to God, if he puts me in a home or gives me to my parents, I will haunt him. I will haunt him somehow.
Good. As you should. As you should.
Brittany's like, nah, just throw me in the dumpster. It's chill.
Just let me go. Bam.
So I wanna kind of say this because while the arguments that I was making earlier, I think this is typically how a lot of people are going to run the structure of their relationship. I think that most people are not entering these relationships, like Wick was talking about, in their 20s with the idea in mind. Yeah, you're probably going to get Alzheimer's when you're 50, and then I'm going to have to spend the next 20 to 30 years of your life, like, working with you and doing that. Usually, people are not doing this. However, it seems like maybe me and Brittany have a similar mind. I like the way that Brittany describes her relationship, like this committal, like we're going with this, outside of abuse, we are going through with this. I like this. This is my speed, right? But I also have to admit, and I'm sure she recognizes what this isn't the same speed for everybody. Not everybody's going to run at this speed. So, I think to what Wick was talking about earlier, where it's like you feel selfish about asking these people. Usually, what you would want is you'd want to have these kind of in-depth conversations before anything crazy happens. Like, hey, what do we look at? Are we here really through sickness and health? Or are we just kind of like going with the flow and just kind of like, yeah, whatever? Like, what are we doing with our relationship, and trying to nail it down? This isn't to say, with that being said, even if I have that ideal relationship where it's like, yes, through sickness and health, I will grant that I probably would feel bad about the idea. Let's say I get Alzheimer's, I would feel bad about the idea of saying to my partner that I want you to stay with me, because I know in the back of my mind I am like financially burdening this person that I love very
Well,
much,
yeah.
and potentially like I'm losing my sense of
Let's take it
self.
away. Let's take it away
Do
from
that.
leaving anyway. Say you're in a situation where you become paralyzed and unable to fulfill your wifely or husbandly duties. Do you require fidelity in that case, or do you let your partner step out?
Wait, are you talking about like I can't have sex anymore? Or are you talking
Yep,
about
you
like
just you got paralyzed, right? You got
Just my
paralyzed
mouth
from the
I
neck
works.
can't.
I'm
down.
I
halfway
can't.
there?
I can't.
Dog.
Oh shit!
I was gonna say, you got hands, you got feet. It's fine. You make work.
Are you
Uh,
saying if I can't make my husband a sandwich anymore,
You're in a
then
wheelchair and you got TMJ. Done.
You got Lou Gehrig's.
We
You
would
got cerebral
renegotiate.
palsy.
We
You
would open up
can't.
renegotiation to see if he feels
Yeah.
differently or if I feel differently.
yeah, I mean, if
Okay.
like
that's the
assuming
only
my
way.
mental faculties are still intact, I think we'd have a conversation, right? Like if you're
Well,
clearly
that's what I'm
unhappy,
asking. Would you like?
Oh,
What
what
is
would you
your
be willing to
Yeah, what
accept?
is your willingness to accept it? Do you require fidelity? Do you require someone to just I'm assuming you're all monogamous.
I'm not.
Do you require well, maybe not you, so you don't count for this question,
Right.
but the rest of you, right? Um,
Mhm.
do you still require monogamy in that situation, or do you let your
Yeah.
partner?
Probably, yeah.
I mean that
Okay,
kind
so
I
of
don't
that
know.
Julie
yeah
says
that
yes.
that really kind of I mean I think I would, because I take that like sickness and in health thing seriously, and
Oh, but they're not
presumably
leaving
my
you.
Well,
husband
that's
did
crazy.
too.
I became disabled and you want to fuck other people, but what? Divorce me right now. What the fuck?
You guys are so
You
wild.
crazy?
I suffered an accident and now no more sex for you for the rest of your life. Fuck you. I wasn't the one who got injured. We both got injured, motherfucker.
What?
My shit don't work. Nope, I don't care. Your dick's getting hard just for you, buddy.
You have a face? What the fuck? We can make it work. This is crazy.
I'm kind of Elder Drazi's opinion here.
That's so
if
fucked.
I think if I if I had an inability of total inability to be able to my dick stopped working completely, then I would probably it'd have to be a conversation, and I'm not sure what the concessions I'd be willing to make to my partner under that circumstance. Maybe not any. I legitimately don't know. Because it would take a lot of time to cope with that new reality. So I'd have to figure out what I'm willing to do after it's really settled in that this ain't working no more ever, like ever. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it would take a while. I'd have to figure it out.
Do you guys who are monogamous, do you think it's okay for somebody to be like, okay, we're monogamous, I'm never gonna leave you. You better not fucking leave me. However, I'm done having sex now. I'm just gonna choose that I just not really into sex anymore.
Can we
So
do
now you're
can we
done
do other
having
shit?
sex.
Can we do other shit, or is it just no sex? Like
Well,
no
I'm not a
sexual
really big
whatever.
fan. I think I'm asexual now, and you better not step out on me because we're monogamous. I think that the
Okay.
idea of you having an orgasm is disgusting. I don't want to have any orgasms, so we're both done having orgasms. Is that okay?
I feel like
Well-
that's stepping on more than one boundary though. Right?
Yeah,
Not boundary,
that's-
but like
that's
that's stepping on
beyond.
that's this is
Telling
going
someone they
down
can't
to-
have an
Most of the time
orgasm
it's
is
a choice.
beyond.
I
No,
think
no,
what
no.
Drazi is saying is when they say no more orgasms is that they don't no more orgasms with them. You're not saying they can't masturbate, right?
If I can do
Yeah,
what I
it's
want
just
on
you
my
and your
own, it's
hand.
fine. Oh,
Do you think that's
fine.
okay for everybody
would-
though? In the same way
Oh,
that we
fuck
were just
no.
talking about? Because
No,
we're just
probably
talking
not,
about
probably
you're
not.
paralyzed. So what if it's just a choice then?
But
Because I
for
think
me, if you want to be with me, then you better get used to that before you start fucking other people.
Damn, that's
so I can
Yeah,
get
I
used to it
think
first and
this
then fuck
is-
other people. Got it.
I just want you to imagine like the sweetest old couple ever, and you're just like, don't you want to fuck young pussy? And it's like, bro, I'm in love and I'm growing old with somebody. Who cares? Like, I'm sorry, not everybody cares about sex this much. Like, it's just sex. Like, how
This
much do you have to
much?
have in a lifetime? Like, look, I like sex as much as the next person, but like, honestly,
Not enough
Don't-
to make my partner uncomfortable.
But look. If my partner and I want to renegotiate because of an accident, and I would open it up. I did poly for 10 plus years. Like I'm open. Like I don't care. But the point is that does it work for our relationship? And if like we don't need sex from other people and we can't have it with each other, who cares, bro? We're growing old. Like we're not prioritizing that. We're prioritizing
Yeah.
intimacy, and we're prioritizing
Yeah.
commitment, and we're prioritizing romance. But like sex, the action of sex, which like we do pretty freaking like a lot, okay?
We be
It's
fucking.
like, it doesn't
we
matter
be
if it
fucking-
ends eventually. It's just sex. Like it's just like sex is great. Don't get me wrong, but you're making it sound like it's water, and it's not.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
hypothetical that you drummed up, Drazi, I feel like I'd be more upset with the like entitlement in this hypothetical person. Like, well, like I don't want to do it anymore, so you're never gonna do that. Fuck you.
Yeah,
No more.
that's
orgasm.
crazy.
Like that's
Yeah.
what I'd be
It feels
more upset with.
abusive. It feels
Yeah, yeah.
abusive.
Rather than like,
I mean,
hey,
because I think it's like we can more or less see like a slow progression into the end point that you're describing, right, Drazi? But like where it's all like it's expected. We talked about this. Oh, you're just not feeling like sex lately. Oh, you're ace. Okay, let's talk about that. You know, like what does that mean for us? Blah blah blah. Like if it's all at once and all of a sudden you have to play to my tune, then yeah, that's abusive. I would say on
Yeah.
like, not
That's what
abusive.
happens
but
with
You
the
can
accident,
be seen in
though.
other ways other than
Okay,
sex.
if we got in an
yes, but
accident,
that's
though,
different though, right?
if we were in an
That's-
accident in our 40s and he wanted to sleep with like 19-year-olds now, I'd be like, Sussy Baka. Yeah, Sussy Baka.
I literally be like, "Are you fucking okay, dude?" Like,
I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, what's going on here?
Does that brain injury hit harder than I thought? What the fuck?
My main point is that is it okay to decide that another person is done having sex, not just
I mean, they
masturbating,
decide.
but yeah. So in both of these situations, the one that I created and the one Wick created, it's not up to the person who's being told that their time having sex is over with.
But it's also
And I
about
think
boundaries.
that's-
If I don't feel comfortable with you doing that, then let's get a divorce. If
Yeah,
you want to fuck
wouldn't
other
that be-
people, let's get a divorce because this is my boundary.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
wouldn't
I
that
just
be
think that it's a
similar?
bit.
I mean,
I
it's
just
the
think
thing
that if that's
we-
what you have to do, then you have to get. I would say you would have to get divorced and set them free then, and not lock
Yeah,
them
that's
into a
yeah,
sexless
that's
life.
fine. No,
But
that's
they
fine.
might,
I agree.
like,
with
I
that.
mean,
honestly,
yeah,
They're not the bad one for saying like, well, I don't want to stop having sex forever.
I don't think they're the bad one for wanting to have the divorce to go have sex. I think they can be the bad one for trying to press you into sex or try to press you into do things or try to press you into having sex with other people while still being in the marriage.
Okay, but like, what are we literally talking about right now? Because again,
Age
like, are we getting married to the consciousness that is so special? Like, we ended up running into them in this one like limited life. And now I'm talking about the one. I'm not talking about the one. I'm talking about like the select group of millions of people that we're compatible with. Everyone's over here saying I'm lonely, and you're willing to ditch your partner that you found that is perfect just because you can't bang anymore. Like everyone says they're so lonely and they can't find anyone. You finally find the person, and the only thing that changes is you can't have sex anymore, and not for any like stupid, salacious, abusive reason, for like a literal reason, maybe medical. You're telling me that's worth ending the commitment you made to this
That's what I'm saying.
No,
If
I'm
they
saying-
want to end it, they can end it. I wouldn't end it myself.
Why is the person who
To
wants
be-
to have sex deciding that it's over? Say, like, I need to have sex one way or another. We got to figure this out because that's very important to me. If they can't handle it, how am I the one who's ending the relationship? It sounds
Okay,
like
so if your partner
Well, I
gets
feel like
in-
it's mutual at that point.
Yeah,
isn't
like
it?
you have to
Yeah.
make the decision because again, I don't know how many of your partners or like people you've known, but like in my world where I am in my culture, like you grow old with your person. My grandma had Alzheimer's. Her husband didn't think like I should go have sex with other people. He just stayed by her bed every day and visited her and loved her. And like you commit to that person. Like it's okay to have sex. I'm not saying it's bad, but if it's not negotiated, like do you get what I'm saying? Like I don't understand what's wrong with also not having the sex. It's okay to have the sex.
I
But
think for some people,
also-
sex
If you-
is like
if
one of
you
the
think
most
it's okay
important
to
parts of the
not-
Yeah,
relationship.
it can be for
I
some
think-
people.
Yeah.
I don't think it has to be the most important. I don't even think it has to be top 5, but I think that there's something to be said when somebody says, okay, sex is off the table for you now, that can have a very big impact.
For sure.
But why
So
are
how
they
you're
saying
going
sex
to-
Why are
is
they
off the
saying it?
table?
Yeah,
That's
I don't
the
get why they
important
would
part.
say that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you,
It's
Julie.
why they're saying it.
I'm
Uh-huh.
curious what you would say because you're coming out pretty strong with this take.
Ooh, coming out
Would you,
strong. What, me? Sorry.
Yeah, you're doing good. I'm proud of you here.
I'm on my 6th drink, so.
We're not gonna touch that. Okay. Uh, so if sex isn't that important to you, would you go into a relationship knowing there's gonna be no sex?
Yeah, if I really like the person, yeah. For me,
Really?
it's more about
Okay.
friends, yeah. 100%.
It's more about friends. What's the difference between a relationship and a friend to you?
There's more intimacy in a relationship than just friends. Like I
By
want to know.
intimacy, you mean
I want to
sex?
know that I can tell
You
you
build a
everything
life
that I
with
can.
somebody. It's not the sex.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
had sex with my
yeah.
friends. You build a life with someone. I don't build life with my friends.
Exactly. If we never had sex, I'd be like, okay, I'll just fuck myself. It's fine. Don't worry
It's
about
about
it.
it's about being able to give the person a Dutch oven.
Yeah.
Wick. That's the
Thank you.
difference.
That's exactly what it is.
Irrelevant. Do you feel the same way? If you met someone you were compatible, but they're like, we're just never gonna have sex, but I want to build a life with you. Would that be a relationship you'd consider?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, yeah, I could having
I mean, yeah.
so
it's like
having
like-
casual sex was perhaps, and having sex in general, bro, it does not meet the hype for me, bro. It is like it got hyped up so much to be like, bro, you're gonna love this shit. It's gonna be the best shit. Nah, man, nah. So in regards to this, yeah, if I really connected with somebody, I will not deny the connection probably needs to be greater for that. Like I'm
Sure.
gonna need to feel stronger about it than I would otherwise need if it was without sex. But I'm 100% open to that. Yeah, absolutely.
Am I just asking the wrong crowd? Like this is.
Oh yeah,
both
you
these
are
answers
100%. Yeah,
are like
you could.
wild.
You want to get Darius in here? He'll be like, no, absolutely.
I
At
am
least
curious
5
what-
women.
I'm very curious what Darius would have to say, but I don't know if he'd
No
meet the
way.
vibe check for the panel.
Can I
I'm
ask a
Darius
question,
in
Wick?
this situation. That's
Please
crazy.
go ahead.
Again, like being allosexual, being like having a sex drive, like having the desire, same. Like, but also like I've had enough sex in my life. I'm good, bro. Like, how many threesomes do you need in a lifetime? But like, okay, so that's why I'm also monogamous,
We're
right?
not even talking about a threesome. We're just talking about
Sorry.
I'm just saying, it gets old, but like maybe not, maybe for not everyone, but that's good. That's good that you know that about yourself. Here's a question bringing it back to age gap relationships is, because this is hard for me. Do we actually know why we think it's kind of icky when there's like a 7-year-old and a 20-year-old? Why do we think it's a little sussy for a
Is
19-year-old
it the
to
life
be?
experience, the difference in life experience, the difference in knowing what is and what is, and what not and what not?
Maybe because I will be honest, after 30, I don't care how big the gap is.
That's what I'm saying. I agree with that too. I think when people in their early 20s, they spent the majority of their life being a child. And so they're just now learning how to be an adult, and they need to have all these experiences and stuff. I feel like people need to have experiences before they settle down and have a family, because otherwise you kind of miss out.
Why did all
What
these
if they had
relationships
like
have to be
huge
settled
amounts of
down?
experience when they were very young? Like they
It's
went
not.
through
It's still not the
experience.
same. It's still
Yeah?
not the same.
Or what?
More
What about
experience
the
when I was younger than when I was in my early 20s, and it's still not the same.
what about the opposite? What about somebody who's had no experience all the way up to like their 30s? You know what I'm saying? Like they've stayed locked in their room just reading all
Irrelevant.
day.
I wonder
Listen,
who
I'm
could
just
that be?
asking for a friend, bro. Asking for a friend.
It sounds a lot like this age gap thing is a proxy for other things that we actually care about and isn't really dependent on the age
But
gap.
the age gap tends to, like, what does it correlate? It tends to relate to your age, I think that's why we talk about the age gap, because
Age
these
gap
types of
directly
things
correlates to your
tends to
age.
relate to your age.
Well,
Huh?
I think she's referring to like whether you are an adult or not, right?
Well, I guess we kind of already
Like
have a
past
set
the past
definition of
25.
what an adult is.
Well, yes, but I mean, like more so that yes, we have like the legal definition, but like we also have like an idea of like 25 is like that's when
Have you
your
ever paid
brain is
taxes before, basically? Right?
yeah, that
this
sort of thing.
this
Well,
is where it gets so
that
weird.
goes into it. That goes into it, right? But like generally after 25 or like even 30, we basically see someone as like a self-actualized person. Like this is who you are as a person. Or at least that's kind of how I see it. And so yeah, after that age, I'm like, I do not give a fuck. Like even before then, you can kind of say, okay, do I give a fuck? But I ask like, but I would want to ask like, okay, is there like some kind of weird power dynamic I don't know about? But even then, like after 30, it's like whatever, you know.
Why does everybody have to seek out the same values? Say difference in life experience. Maybe what I'm looking for when I'm 21 is somebody who has more life experience. Maybe I want somebody who could give me a little bit of guidance because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Maybe I
Why
don't
don't you
want to
go
go
troll
chaos through life
the
with another
nursing
21
homes
year
at
old.
21, right? Do you think it would be Elder Drazi? Would it be weird if someone who wants that wisdom, right? They really believe age comes with wisdom, so that's what they want in a relationship. They want to be mentored. They want to be taught. They want to have someone to take them. They want a senpai, basically, and they want.
They want
Do
to
you
be
think it would be
groomed.
weird for them to go to a nursing home or go to somewhere where like an elderly facility?
What do you really
maybe
want to
one.
know? Weird is too
Right? Do you think that
charged.
would be
Obviously,
bad?
it's weird. Bad? No. Dude, when I was
Why
21,
not?
I had sex with a
You don't think
51-year-old.
you wouldn't think that's
Why is that
bad for a
bad?
21-year-old person to go to a nursing home or an elderly care facility, somewhere where they're not like sick or nothing, they're healthy,
You
but
gave me their intentions. You just told me what their intentions were. So yeah, like honestly, if some 70-year-old woman hooks up with this 21-year-old guy and like this is exactly what he wanted, if she's hooking up with him and that's what she wanted, this chick just had like the fucking best day in like the last 10 years of her life. She's like, I never would have thought that the day would have come for me. Like if she's saying yes, that means she's been thinking about it. You're not going to be 70 on the fly, be like, oh well, I
think
never
that's the
considered. I
majority
guess
of
I could.
70-year-olds, though. I don't think the majority of 70-year-olds are like, you know what I could do today? I could fuck a 20-year-old.
Right. So if he found somebody who's down, why is it wrong for either one of them?
I think there's something more here though, and I don't. This is a very contentious
Wick gave me
conversation,
the intentions though. That's important.
right? Like, sex is sex is sex. Like that's what you hire a hooker. Like go temporary. It doesn't matter. Go to a poly dungeon. Like everybody's be okay.
Why are you
But
standing
like,
outside the high school, bro? Sorry.
yeah, like there's something about our
I'm
choice of
dating a
partners and why
teacher.
we do it. There's always a reason, right? There's always a
Ooh.
reason. And I wonder if we're being honest with why we're doing it. And if it's something like, oh, they have hot young bodies, so that's why I do it, that's fine. But that's not really helpful because those bodies age. And again, like what's the ick we really have with age gap relationships? And for me, it's the intentions. What are your honest intentions? Because if you tell me it's just sex, I'm good, bro. But even that's weird. Like, why do you specifically got to get that young body? Why do you have to have
Yeah.
that thing? But that's
I also feel like
fine.
there's more room for like abusive situations to happen in age gap relationships because people in their early 20s
Both
and
ways.
stuff specifically
Both ways.
don't know what the fuck they're doing.
But
I don't know
also,
about
look,
that.
look, I'm not saying that they're always wrong. I'm not saying like we even have to take sides on this, but I'm saying there is a thing that's sussy about it. There's a reason why we're moving away from it. There's a reason why some of us move like, that's really weird. Like you're at a college party and your friend brings over their boyfriend and he's 55. It's like, oh, this is weird. What's happening
Ugh.
here? Like, that's
Oh,
weird.
get him out.
It's not just weird because it's strange, because
Why
in other
bring the
cultures,
professor? Right?
think it's
Oh,
it's
no.
weird that he's
Just
at
trying
the
to get good
party more
grades,
than that
baby
they're
girl.
dating.
Just study with me. What the
sure,
fuck?
but like when you're dating, are you dating because you have something in common? Are you dating because you're the same path in life? You want to grow together, or do you want to meet your partner? Because I'll notice even in my former age gap relationship, when my guy was 12 years older than me, I grew past him. I was like, hey, are you gonna like grow up, or are we gonna be like Burning Man people for the rest of our life? Like, what's happening? And he was like, nah, this is it. And I was like, oh, no, no, no. And so like I bailed, but I still like I'm still a kid in so many ways, right? So I'm not saying I'm more mature in that way, but like I wanted something longer in life, right? Like more in life.
It sounds like
So
it was a
even
beneficial relationship for you to have
Two
and
things.
help you
Two
grow
things
and learn
before
as a
we go.
person.
but that's not the same as
Eldrazi,
but I want a
center
long-term
yourself.
relationship. So it was a failed relationship because we didn't make it to long term. It was a good temporary in the moment relationship, but what was the point of it if we didn't grow old together?
I think those are
Eldrazi,
important
take
too.
your camera and move it over so you're in the center, because we're seeing
sorry.
like a half Eldrazi here.
Sorry,
$2
I was like
from the
leaning in.
empowered man to say much respect to Ice Bean. $8
Ice
from
Bean,
Remy
Ice
LeBeau
Bean,
to
Ice
say
Bean.
Beans rules, Heem gang forever.
Agree.
Oh,
Agree.
nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We need
Thank
more
you.
Ice Bean love. Can we get
Yeah.
more? Come on.
More Ice Bean love in chat, especially with money attached to it.
Yes.
That would be
Yeah, give Wick money.
exactly. That's a
Give
relationship
Wick
we're in.
beans.
I'd
Um,
choke
Give him
on a
beans.
drink for subs, but I'm out of drinks. Oh,
I don't think you can drink for subs either. I think that's against
that's
policy.
crazy. Who would make that rule?
I do want to talk about though, like, because Brittany brings up an interesting point when it comes to age gaps about the true intentions. Even if someone did say that, oh, I just want them for sex, or even if they just said, well, I'm just looking for a mature mentor. How much does that fucking matter at the end of the day? Because what you're doing, right, like regardless of what your intention is you're putting yourself in a situation or someone else in a situation where there's a lot of chance for things to go terribly wrong. A much heightened, I guess I'll ask for this. Do we think that massive age gap relationships, I'm talking 15 years plus age gaps, when you're 20 to a 40-year-old, 20 a 50-year-old, do we think that there is at least a heightened chance that things will go south or go wrong? Or
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So,
super
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Do we really think that we should be prescribing relationships based on like mid-maxing successfulness? Because
To an extent.
okay, so if that's the case, I think this is really crazy. So I looked up a bunch of statistics for this. Interracial marriages, 10% higher failure rate. Arranged marriages in the United States have a significantly lower, like 30% lower divorce rate. If you go to a country where that's the norm, 1% of arranged marriages fail. We would not suggest this. And we're talking about like this is peak success rates here. But we can argue against those things because relationships are nuanced and we would never want to look at maximizing outcomes when we talk about these things.
Well, okay, look, I want to make sure from my position, like I am agreeing with you that like we want to look for the exceptions, and then like my whole audience is niche people, right? I'm not trying to prescribe like the norm to anybody here, but I do want to make it clear that the why is interesting. Like I did an old traditional courting style wedding, like courting style dating, and everyone thought that was kind of crazy, but it works. And like it worked for my parents, it worked for my brother, it like works, but we're secular, right? So we adapted it, something that's traditional. I don't want longevity to be the success if there's dysfunction in the relationship. I want healthy, well, I don't want to say long term either, because I think short term relationships are successful if they're negotiated to be short term. But the dilemma is that often in these age gap relationships, I think there's a miscommunication about intent about the longevity of the relationship. And it's usually because an older person is sort of maybe having fun with the younger person, or the younger person's like, I really love this person. I'm really into them and they're really teaching me a lot. But when reality hits and you start talking about Social Security and health insurance and having babies and real life, it can get difficult. So again, I think there's a miscommunication about what we're even doing here. If it's for long term, I think it's possible. If it's for short term, I think it's possible. But are people being honest with their intent when they're trying to make these things possible?
Yeah, it just has nothing to do with age gaps, right?
Well, I think I don't
It
know.
might just
See,
as
that's
easy
the
just be your
question.
age.
So
They correlate to
can
ages, do they not?
Yeah, can I springboard off of this? It's that when people, a lot of times people will be unreasonable about what they can handle in a relationship going into it. They can get the rose-colored glasses and things like that. And there is a lot of issues, especially with large age gaps in relationships, that you really need to not have those, rose-colored glasses on to be able to understand. Like Brittany was talking about age, Social Security, all these things. These are very important things that you need to have the forefront of your thought when you're thinking about possibly having a long-term relationship with somebody with a significant age gap, that it seems like maybe not a lot of people are equipped to be able to handle. But this doesn't throw away the entire concept. It's just that, like, more often than not, you might have to be more cautious about these things because they run a little bit more of a significant risk. As to the original question of like, are these more likely to fail? I think so, just simply on the merits of, I think more often than not, a 20-year-old is not going to have very much in common with a 40-year-old in comparison to another 20-year-old. So if just simply the question of are these relationships going to fail more often than not? I think probably. That's just it. This isn't to say again you shouldn't do it.
So
It's
then,
just
given
like,
that
Marriages
that's
do
the
fail
not.
case, but given that that's the case, right? And I think we all agree that is the case. At what point of failure rate is it immoral to risk that? Someone who you know that the younger person that you're trying to get with wants something serious and long term that will work out, but you know that just on the numbers, you are much more likely to fail than someone that is 10 years younger or 20 years younger than you getting into a
I
relationship
wouldn't
with
say
them.
it's
Does
immoral.
someone-
I wouldn't say
Yeah,
it's
does
immoral. If
someone
you
actually
want to
make
take
a-
that chance, then you should take that chance. Just go into it understanding that you have a higher chance of failing than if you would just be with someone your own age. But if you really like that person, you should go for it. But just understand that it might not work out the way that you think it would.
Does anyone really make a decision based on like the survivability rate of the relationship? Like, does anyone look at like a study and says, "Oh, hey, it says here that my
We
marriage
make
is
those
proved."
decisions
I mean,
all the time.
yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't
no.
to-
But do we do that based on like the stats? Is my question.
No, Wick, I think that you're
Does
correct.
that make
People
sense?
do this a lot. We don't ever use stats like Ice Bean saying, but we do this a lot. So like, there's this thing where when my wife has had a failed relationship with a woman that she dated, she'll get really upset that it ended, and then she'll like look at the good things as bad things, and I'm always like, no, all those things that were good between you guys were good. You get to keep all those good experiences with you. That doesn't mean that it's bad because it ended. And I don't understand
Well,
this
no,
idea
that's
that
not
it's
exactly what I
a
meant.
bad thing because it ended. It can still be just as beautiful as it always
Sure.
was.
What
That's
I
so
mean,
poly of you, bro. I love that. But that's so fucking open relationship of you. So like, yes, an
You
open
could get this to a
relationship.
monogamous person who
But, like,
ended a
no.
relationship too.
Yeah, totally, bro. But like, not when you're trying to grow old with somebody, right? Like when you're trying to go older with someone, you're playing a different game. So I agree.
Yeah.
If you're playing your game, absolutely, I agree with that. I agree that all the relationships I've had prior had beautiful moments, but like also, I wish I didn't have those memories sometimes because I wish I had just found my person, but I didn't. I had to like date a lot of wrong people, right? They were wrong relationships, and I don't feel that way about those people. I feel like good for past Brittany, but like I think again. You don't want to go in. Poly brain says, yes, I agree with you, but monogamous brain doesn't work that way. Like,
Well, I
it doesn't
also feel
work.
like a lot of people in their early 20s get into those wrong relationships as they're growing and learning.
Yeah, and they pick up tools and they learn what they need. But in
Yeah.
poly relationships and open, you're playing like such a different game, which I love, like totally recommend. But you have to know that that's the game you're playing, right? And also, I just want to say, like, I really think any kind of relationship can work, but I am sussy. Like, I live in Croatia where it's 16 is of age. You think I'm not suspicious when 55-year-old guys are with
bro.
16-year-olds?
That's crazy.
I'm super suspicious. Why?
My
Because even though it's legal,
Russell
some
Brand
freaking
says hello.
icky about it,
Hold on.
and I don't know what it
with
is.
the power
no.
stance, with the
Power
stance,
dynamic, or
sorry.
even women. It's like, why are you going for someone who's so obviously not in your on your level? And if they're not on your, or if they are on your level, then that means you're really something's wrong with you. That you're 55 and into 18-year-olds or 19.
It's
you
probably
know?
an easy fuck or whatever, right? They
But
just want
that's
an easy
different.
fuck.
If it's an easy fuck, I don't care.
Super
But if they
easy for
tell
the
me
younger
I'm in
person.
love, we're connecting, we have so much in common, it's like, how am I going to believe
I think
this,
they
bro?
might use that as an excuse to get the easy fuck.
Of course, yeah.
On
I
which
think
side
so too.
though? You think a 20-year-old woman couldn't fuck like almost any 50-year-old straight dude that she wants? Come on. Like she has her pick for the most part.
Sure.
Just as
for
much
sure.
as you think that if you think like a 50-year-old has a shot with like an 18 or a 19-year-old, those numbers are dramatically flipped when it's on the woman's
Yeah,
side. Of her
I
pick.
think
I don't-
dysfunction is clear on both sides, right?
Sure,
Yeah, it's
I don't disagree
that's
with that.
why that's
I
kind of what I'm illustrating is that it's just as it's not like the old guy is just looking for an easy
But-
fuck. Easy
Now,
would
why
be,
is there dysfunction is the question. Like, why do we think it's icky? Why do we think it's dysfunctional if two consenting parties are dating each other regardless of the
There has
age
to
gap?
be a reason. There has to be a
My-
reason, right?
So my thing, so some like in an answer to a question that was asked way earlier, so when I was way younger, this was before I was legal. I was in a age gap relationship, and looking back at that now, I'm like, I absolutely did not know what I was getting into, and that to me kind of is where that ick can come in because I know what I was like at that age, and how immature I was and how I didn't pick up on any of the like sleazy flags that this guy was like flying. So that's the sort of thing that I would actually try to, yes, prevent for other people, regardless if they're men or women. And that's kind of where, for me, that ick does tend to come in a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It's not necessarily like a cope in answer to that old question that was asked earlier. It's more to do with the like, I'd rather prevent somebody from going through the same or similar thing where I'm taken advantage of because I don't know what red flags look like.
100%.
That is where it comes from. We're afraid of the worst case scenario happening, and that makes us feel really freaked out. And it should if the worst.
It's not even worst case scenario though, right?
It's any type of scenario.
It's like
it's
just bad case scenario, right?
I'm saying we are worried about that always. Because we see younger people, like we knew what we were like when we were young. We were stupid, and it'd be like, what if they're just being stupid and something bad's going to happen to them? I wouldn't want that. So this is where, like, I feel protective, so I want to impose what I think is right onto them. I think that's all it is. That's the ick. We're worried, scared for them, but gotta let them live their life.
Yeah.
Can I throw in a little red pill like side derail here? Sorry. So if we think there's nothing wrong with age gap relationships and we're like they're fine, they should happen, whatever, then how come most men in their mid-30s are not dating women in their early 20s? Like why shouldn't that be the norm? Why shouldn't that be the norm? If that's the prime for women and men, why shouldn't most relationships be that way rather than most relationships being like people are dating people in their similar age range?
Not slaves or
I think in the past, wasn't there the average age gap like 6 or 7 years? Like
but now
50s
that
and stuff?
but isn't that women didn't really, they were getting kind of married off. Now they get the choice and they want to date men in their own age range. Why would that be? Huh?
I think a large part of that is the people that you interact with are usually in your age range.
Yeah, the people that are around you and stuff. But that's what I'm saying. If that was the most optimal, like prime, like relationship to have, wouldn't most people be choosing that regardless of the people they're around?
No, I've never met anybody choose the prime.
Yeah. I think. And just to be fair, to kind of go all the way back to Leonardo DiCaprio, I actually think that's kind of a part of what Leonardo DiCaprio is doing. Is I think he's probably surrounded by women who are in their 20s because the industry of acting is inundated with young.
But there's a lot of actors. But hold on, there's a lot of actors who date people their own age.
Why can you?
There's a lot of actors who date people their own age.
There absolutely is, but there's.
He's an outlier for a reason because he's being wacky-oly.
Well, I think he's an outlier because he's consistently dating at one specific age.
Is he an outlier? Like,
I think
again, I want to point to you, Dane Cook, who is 51, just married
Who
his
cares
wife,
about Dane Cook?
who's 24, and they started dating 6 years ago.
But wait, well, hold on. Hold on. Wait, they have been dating for 6 years. They kind of like they had that adult relationship together. Whereas every year Leonardo DiCaprio is getting a new woman. He's like I said earlier, he's barreling through women.
I think Dane
he's
Cook's
not sticking with one woman.
I don't like it.
Yeah, but
I'm being judgy, but I don't like it. There's something about I don't get it.
Weird about it.
I don't get it,
girl.
A 45-year-old man finding an 18-year-old girl, right? And then 6 years later they're married. Grooming anyone? Like, I don't know.
I don't like it when people ride the line. When people ride the line, that's
so we agree that 46 and 18 is bad, and age gap relationships when you're really young are not good. Thank you.
I just have a big concern for the younger person having to raise the older person. That's my concern. Is the younger person is going to have to eventually, because the older person is, if they're, I still think like if their maturity levels are matching, or if they want to, mentoring, grooming, and all that stuff is possible. But I'm actually concerned with the idea that the older person is lacking so much maturity that the younger person is going to reach like her 40s or 50s or his 40s and 50s and realize like, oh my gosh, are you not going to grow up, dude? And a big part of it is the promise of I'm going to grow up because I'm older. I'm more attractive to you because it looks like I have my shit together. So again, I don't care. Every relationship could work. Everyone could be toxic. It doesn't matter if you're the same age or the same gender, whatever. Everything could be toxic. But the idea of age gap leads to so many other possible harms that I would just ask the questions. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm saying you should ask and be diligent and not just assume it's going to work because someone's got their money together and you're young and hot and like that makes sense somehow. I just think people should consider what they're doing. And I think most relationships fail because we're not dating the people we should be with. We're dating the people we're settling for.
I think
Ooh.
I'm against Dane Cook's marriage.
Ooh.
Well, honestly, he met her when she was 18. That means she's too young to know that he steals jokes. She thinks he's actually fucking funny. She thinks that's him, and it's not. He's putting on a facade. He's telling all the greatest hits of the 90s comedy tour, and she's falling for it. That's fucked up. She should boot him just like we all booted him off the comedy stage. You can't be doing that shit.
$50 from Lawson Harrison to ask this, or just yeah. When looking at the double standard, there seems to be four older men dating young. There seems to be more older men dating younger women versus older women dating younger men. Does anyone else think this double standard exists for reasons outside of societal conditioning, and is it potentially justifiable?
Societal
premise.
conditioning? That's a
So
steep
outside
one.
of
Yeah.
the societal conditions, is
That's a
there
steep one.
perhaps? I think what he's getting at is it maybe a justifiable reason where you see more older men with younger women than vice versa?
I mean, maybe we're going to disagree here. I think more often men look for physical attractiveness in their partners than women do, and I also think women more often look for stability markers in their partner
Yeah.
than men do, and therefore they're naturally going to gravitate towards women dating older men and men dating younger women.
True.
I'm not sure,
That's-
but
that's
like I
interesting.
don't know. Like the problem is that like outside of societal thing, that I'm not sure if that entirely comes from society or not. So like that,
Yeah,
I'm
is
not sure.
that seems agreeable to me too. Is
Well-
the person who asked the question, do they have like something in mind?
I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know,
okay.
Lawson.
Well, I
You
don't know
got
if
something
that's
in mind?
I don't know if
Like,
that's
do
a
they have a
society
reason
thing.
in mind?
I don't know if that's a society thing because, like, if I'm gonna have your baby, if I'm gonna go through all of this physical and mental trauma to bear your children, you better be able to support me while I'm doing that for you and for us and our family.
Okay, and
Uh,
I agree with Relly, and like I agree with the concept generally, but I'm curious, in your guys' like culture growing up, like in your neighborhoods, how many people did you know who were 21 dating like 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds? Like, because that
Zero.
was very
I don't know
uncommon.
anyone.
There were a
I
few
knew people.
exceptions of actually like
If it was
15-year-olds
heard of,
dating.
it was Jesus
I'm gonna
Christ.
be real with you. When I was in high school, most of the high school girls I knew would brag about dating 30-year-olds.
Okay, I knew.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I think that's like
you know
mental
what's funny?
illness, though.
I
I'm
was
gonna be
gonna
for
say,
real.
in my world, high schoolers dated more college boys than college girls dated older men in my world. So I knew more high school girls who dated college boys than I knew 20-year-olds dating 40-year-olds.
I cannot tell you how many women I know that said when they were 13 they had like a 29 to like 35-year-old boyfriend even. Like
Jesus
it's just kind of
Christ.
yeah.
Okay, here's the question.
You just say.
Do you know how hard? Do you know how hard it is to
That's
not have like a what the fuck
That's
reaction and just try to
Okay.
be cool and
So
not
that's
like
the
make them
question.
feel like shit about it?
Why
Yeah,
is that
that's
Bro,
wrong?
wild.
what?
Why is
You
that
should
wrong?
make them feel like shit about it. If your
Wait,
if your
why is
guy
it
friends
wrong
are
for a
telling you that.
13-year-old to date a 30-year-old?
Or if it's
I'm
legal, why
gonna
is it
jump
wrong?
off a bridge. I'm finding
what's
a bridge
legal?
and I'm jumping off his
Is it
lives.
legal, but is it the legality that makes it wrong, or is it the
No.
age
No,
gap?
it's the
not the
assumption
age
that a
gap.
13-year-old
It's the lack
assumption
of
that the
consent.
13-year-old can't give informed consent. Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
I have the
What
same
did I just
impression
hear?
of young people who are obviously like easily manipulated by their lack of life experience, but even more than that,
Yes.
their age and their brain developing. I have
Yes.
concerns that people under 25 or under 30, if I'm being honest with you, in America, let's
Yes.
say,
Oh my God,
really
yes.
do have a misunderstanding of what it is to date an adult. Like, again, okay. But like that's my concern is that when you look at a 13-year-old and a 19-year-old or whatever, I get icked out, but I also get that
Yes.
same feeling when I see a 19-year-old with a 45-year-old because I'm like, what are you doing? Boy
Literally,
or girl,
yes.
non-binary or not, what are you doing with that younger person?
Literally,
There
yes.
is a
Literally,
substantive
yes.
difference between a 13-year-old
There is
and
a
a
difference.
19-year-old.
No, but here's the
But
thing.
it's not,
Here's the
it is
thing.
the difference, but it's in
But
the
the
same
thing
category of
is
ick to me.
An
It
18-year-old
should be a
has spent the
different
majority
category.
of
It
their
is
life
different,
being
literally,
a
but it's not.
child. They've only ever been a child for their whole life. They've no idea how to be an
Right.
adult, and you just swoop in and pick them up. They still have no idea what the fuck they're doing. You obviously have more control and power over them.
Why
whether
do you think
wanna acknowledge
anyone
that or
knows what
not.
the fuck they're doing, right?
Because an 18-year-old
I
has
don't-
no
that's not the
idea compared to a
criteria.
25-year-old, to a 26, 27,
Look,
28.
as
An
somebody who
18-year-old,
like
comparatively, no.
I think the difference here, guys, is look, my grandma was married at 12, right? To like an adult.
Oh.
Like realistically, no, everybody, they were both forced into an arranged marriage. Everybody was. It was just how it was. Look,
That's fucked
I
up.
want to explain something,
Oh
but
my
to them,
God.
this is their normal. So I look at them, I say, we need to stop this. So then it was like 16-year-olds
Yes.
and 25-year-olds, and then it was 19-year-olds with a little bit older, and now it's love marriages. I get the first generation of love marriages, baby, and I want to make sure this is the continue what we continue, but we have to then say, what is a love marriage? What is a love relationship? What is something that's loving? And it's usually making sure that the younger person involved, regardless of gender, does not get taken advantage of, and the older person in the relationship doesn't get taken advantage of, that nobody is actually being maliciously harmed, and that everybody's looking out for each other in a
Yes.
really concerted effort. So again,
Yes.
for me, I don't care what the law says. I'm concerned with what is our intention going into this dynamic. I'm not saying it can't work. I'm saying
I
we
just
need to
feel like
be
in large
concerned.
age gaps, there's more room for those intentions to be nefarious.
Well, I don't care. Like,
Well,
I
hold on.
don't know why
So-
we're caring about intention here when we can look at, like, you can have the best, most beatific
You can have a great
intentions
age
to
gap
date a
relationship,
13-year-old
sure.
thinking, I'm going to make sure that they're made safe from the world. Your intentions could be all gravy, baby, but that doesn't make what you're doing right. Right? It doesn't make what you're doing right. Intentions only carry you so far. I think that intentions would be important when you come into putting punishment onto someone for what they did once it invariably goes wrong. But even if your intentions are the best possible you can, if you are putting yourself or another person in a situation that is going to be a large potential for abuse and harm, then I don't care if you don't intend to abuse or harm. There is something to be said about you have done a wrong.
Do we
as the
not think
system
that
is.
I
there's
mean,
a
that's where
bigger
the ick factor
potential?
comes in.
Do
How
we not
dare
think
you,
that there's a
Judge
bigger
Wick?
potential for abuse and harm in a 21-year-old and a 35-year-old than there is for a 31-year-old and a 45-year-old? Because I feel like there's a bigger
probably.
potential, is there not?
Probably.
No.
My issue comes where now it
Probably,
feels
I'll
like
take
we're
it.
making
I'm really-
a kind of a almost a separate argument, almost where we're talking about the maturity levels of like even 19-year-olds and how this isn't very like high enough. And part of the issue is if you don't think a 19-year-old is mature enough to be able to have these relationships, like number one, why, and number two, this would apply to all relationships. If you think that a 19-year-old isn't, so a part of the issue with a 13-year-old having any kind of relationship is they don't know how to have relationships, period. It is bad for them to even have a relationship with a 13-year-old because they both of them don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have no idea what the hell they're doing, right? So we could say that like, hey, you know, it's natural and they're probably going to go through some learning experience. That's probably true, but the whole idea behind like consent and the idea that these people can't give informed consent is they don't know what they're doing even with each other. They don't know what they're
Can
doing.
I ask a question? Would you say it's okay for a 19-year-old to get in a relationship with someone who's 45 if they've had 4 or 5 relationships before that, or it's their very first relationship? Would you say that's different?
I think I would have to do it based off the merits of like the person, like them as an individual. What experiences have they gone through, and are they in?
But this is
individually
the
mature?
experiences that they've gone through have been based on those relationships that they had. They've had 3 or 4 like relationships, long term maybe. Even one of them's probably been like 3 years, and now they're gonna get into a relationship with a 45-year-old. Is that okay? Is that better than them getting into a relationship with a 45-year-old when they've never had a relationship?
Are you stating that, like, gun to my head, I can't say I have to give a one or the other, or
No, just say how you're
Oh
feeling.
well, then I would say I need more information.
So
I just don't know.
if we're looking at this from the maturity standpoint, would it be equally wrong if I met a 40-year-old woman and I knew that she had lived a very sheltered life? Maybe she's dumb. Maybe she's like borderline, okay? She's pushing that 80 IQ.
I might be dumb.
Right?
No, sorry.
But
She woke up from a coma.
is it wrong for me to she woke up for a coma maybe. Would it be wrong for me to date them in the same way it would be wrong, quote unquote, or problematic, quote unquote, or icky, quote unquote, for me to date someone who was 20 years my junior?
Maybe.
Can we,
Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah,
strong
I think that
maybe, yeah.
happened.
Probably
I
the
think that
same mental
happened on
capacity,
BoJack.
right?
can we stop pretending like there's not pros and cons to both sides of this? Like,
What's the sell me on it. Sell me on the
What are the-
sell
Okay,
me
sure.
on the just got out of a
Sure.
coma girl, okay?
Well,
why
I
why
just-
is,
I'm
why
just
is
saying
she
dating
the
someone just
superior
out of
mate?
a coma.
There's
It's
pros
legal,
and,
right?
There's
It's
pros
legal.
and cons to the age, to like the different age gaps. Like if you have two 20-year-olds in a relationship, what do you think the odds are of an unexpected pregnancy versus like a 40-year-old and a 20-year-old dating? I bet you that 40-year-old is going to be a lot more cognizant and aware of what it means if you fuck up and have an oopsie, and is at least going to have like
But
money
he's
for
fucking
an abortion.
a 20-year-old. What do you mean?
I mean that if he's fucking a 20-year-old, he's probably going to know what happens if he doesn't pull out or if she's not on the pill or whatever. He's going to be thinking about these things because he's had enough life to know that I don't want to fucking pay child support for 18
I was
years.
making a joke.
It
was a joke in my head.
Gotcha. And there's also going to be like other things about like reckless behavior. A 20-year-old, I don't, the gender doesn't matter, is probably going to have less practice at risk assessment in general, is going to be less aware of like how other people like perceive them and how to like interact emotionally with people. There are pros and cons to both sides of it. It just seems like we're always talking about like this is just this way, but like we don't ever talk about like here's some like really valid reasons why somebody might seek to date somebody older.
Do you feel like there's more cons in a large age gap relationship than there is in people who are dating like within the same age range, or less cons, or no con? Like
I think
no
that I've been pretty consistently saying that I think that age is just a proxy for whatever thing that we're upset about when we see.
Do you think those proxies kind of relate to their age?
No. I think that...
See, that's strange to me, because then how do you relate that to even minors or high schoolers? Like, what's the difference between a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old? Like, is it just arbitrary?
Never asked a Mr. Girlfriend about that question, but go ahead.
So look, and if it's arbitrary, like, how do we make amends with that? Because, like, look, I don't want a 19-year-old...
I can answer that question. I don't think it's arbitrary. I think that when it comes to whether somebody consent or not, you have to go with the law. Because if there's people in an area, and the law is whatever age it is, if people in that area think that it's too low, sure, but if people in that area think the age is too low, they're going to be flipping over cop cars, they're going to be burning down court buildings. Nothing people hate more than people diddling kids, okay? If they think the law's letting people diddle kids, they're going to freak the fuck out. If everybody's chilling at home, drinking beers and having a good time.
What are you talking about? Yeah. We have, like, it's very, even in America, there are areas and stuff where you can marry
16, 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds,
even. $20 from Lawson Harrison to say, would it be ethical to date a 30-year-old from North Sentinel Island?
Is that who you are?
Lawson? Is that who you are, Lawson?
Yeah. I think, look, the way I want to approach this is the way I approach like student loans. I don't know if you guys follow that part of the world, but if I have a 19 or an 18-year-old who's like, I'm going to take out $100,000 for loans, I'm like, hold up, buddy. Like, you are not mature enough to handle this decision.
That depends on the country, because student loans are interest-free in Canada, so.
Great. Like, if only we were all Canadian. But, like, there's that question of, like, it's not that the thing you're doing is necessarily wrong. It's the context begs the question. And then you just have to be, like, do your due diligence. But I will say this, and I will say this again. Though I think all relationships could work in a legal, what the fuck is the law if they're allowing kids to get married? Like, I don't know what that means. Crazy. But, like, okay, there is something weird, and I think there's something that I'm happy to explore with myself, and I'll figure it out. Why does someone who's 50 make me uncomfortable to the fact that they're into a 19-year-old?
There's a reason.
Like, there's something about it that just feels so dishonest. Like, there, like, something about it that feels
creepy. It feels scary. It feels uncomfortable. It feels weird. It just does.
To both of you, this is the same feeling, or I would guess it's remarkably similar feeling to someone 50 years ago when they looked at a same-sex couple. It would make them
are the same-sex couples the same age? No. Like age doesn't make a difference.
No, you're gonna get
I really don't think that's true. I really don't think that's true.
Stop pretending with me that age doesn't make a difference. Either does it make a difference or it doesn't.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't think same-sex couples or interracial couples has anything to do with age gap relationships. Age gap is totally different.
It's literally talking about the development of a human consciousness. Like, a brain is literally in development.
Because people have more experience when they're older. You don't have more experience. Go, Brittany.
Well, what is experience? Because you could be an incel till you're 40 and still have a world experience, right? It doesn't even mean relationship experience. What we're talking about is your ability to problem solve within reason, to make a decision, like committing to this and not being groomed, not being abused. Not that we're victim blaming, but the idea is like
not putting people in a position where they feel like they have to say
yes
to you
because you're older. And why is the older person targeting the younger person? Again, it's not that I'm saying they're all bad. Look, I've had play partners, I've had polyamorous lovers, I've had all kinds of people of all age gaps. But I'll tell you, from my experience, all of them were incredibly immature, and none of them were appropriately acting their age. And my concern,
that's why they're shooting for younger women.
It's anecdotal. I know this. But I'm saying I have a concern that either they're too immature or worse, they're very mature and very calculated.
I agree.
So, do the immature older
Irrelevant,
people have
give
to
it a
date
try.
mature people
But
their same
like,
age?
I can imagine 50 years ago. I wasn't alive then, but I can imagine a lot of these same arguments. Oh,
They might have
black
made the
people
same
just don't
arguments,
have the
but they
same
don't ring as
experience
true.
as white people. So when a white person goes to a black community looking for love, like
But they don't ring
going
true.
for
I just
love,
don't ring
it's
true.
You guys
inherently
are using this as an
problematic,
argument.
and you
Yeah,
probably
this is
shouldn't,
crazy to
right?
me.
Yeah,
It
can
just
we
They
talk
don't
about
ring
the
true.
power
You- they
dynamics?
don't ring
Can be a
true.
thing.
Wait, hold on a second. Can we? Okay,
don't
hold on.
clip that.
Wick,
That was just
Wick,
stealing.
Wick, I'm gonna take the charitable version of your question. You're talking about like the social perception of this relationship,
Well, the
correct?
argument seems
Because-
to be from the side that is against age relationship from Julie and from Brittany is that it makes you feel icky because there's potential problems,
Not just
and we
against
gotta look
those,
at these potential
suspicious.
problems, and I'm suspicious, and it makes me feel icky. And I see you $5 from Cheeky Banter to say it is the same. It's literally arbitrary feelings. Y'all
If
just
it
said it
is,
feels
then we
wrong.
shouldn't have an
Ask
age of
racist
consent.
I'm
about
not sure about that
IR
argument.
relationships. It just
I
feels
feel
wrong.
like the potential problems that might arise from a hetero or homosexual relationship or an interracial relationship are not the same problems that would rise from an age gap relationship. I feel like the problems that would rise from those other relationships are external, of people looking in and making judgments, whereas the problems that would rise from a age gap relationship would be more internal, where when someone's in their early 20s and someone's in their late 30s. I feel like there's a difference there.
You don't think that it's kind of weird that a white man in the like 1930s wants to date a black woman when people aren't gonna like hear her out? Everybody's gonna take his side no matter what happens. Any
But
kind
when
of
it could
conflict.
be, it
Don't
could
you
be
think it's a
talking
little
about
bit
power.
weird
We're
that
talking
like
about
he's not
today.
just dating
Wait,
somebody
Joe, wait.
the same race,
Sexualizing
but
the
everybody's
black
just
woman.
gonna
Are we
be
not
okay with
talking
it?
about right
Okay,
now?
wait. No,
Doesn't
you
it
say
feel a
like
little predatory?
it could be predatory. You're right. A white woman could fetishize a white man could fetishize a black woman and target her and use her for her quote unquote ethnicity or whatever. Yeah, that could be a thing. Thank you for bringing it up, I guess.
Obviously,
But,
I
like,
don't
that's
feel
not what
this
you
way,
mean.
but that's what Wick was saying. Like, what's the
I know, but
difference
it doesn't
here?
make sense. Look, are you concerned about young people and old people possibly taking advantage of each other and misusing their power dynamics? Because I am. I'm just concerned. I'm not saying you're bad. I'm not saying you're going to hell. I'm saying I'm concerned, and I think it's weird you're not.
I just don't think
that
it's
the
to the same
concern
degree.
is misguided and that we should be looking out for bad things in relationships if we're looking to help people out with our
I
suggestions.
agree with you.
Wait,
I
can we-
think
can we
more
No,
bridge
we
this?
agree.
Can we
But we
bridge this
agree.
gap?
Okay.
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
give it
Because
a
I
go,
feel
Irrelevant.
I
Give it
feel
a
like
go.
I feel like we're almost fighting demons here, because I can agree with Elder
We are
Drazi that
fighting
on
demons. We're fighting
because
women.
yeah,
Anyway,
true,
go ahead.
yeah, you're true.
Fucking
The Elder
go! Let's go.
Elder Drazi, I feel like I agree with you with the online like perception and take like the online sphere, because when you see large age gap relationships, it feels like it's just, especially if it's a man dating a younger woman, it's like all hell is breaking loose. Like this is Armageddon. Like this guy is part of the problem. He is the patriarchy incarnate and shit like that. Like whatever. But that's not who we're talking to right now. Nobody in this call is doing that. Right. So like I feel like we're kind of fighting the demons, because I feel like it's valid to go like, bro, you're 54, you're dating a 19-year-old. What's going on, bro? Like, you're sidebar, bro. Like I feel like that's a
Sidebar.
valid
High
Yeah.
five. No, but go on.
yeah, no, but like, I feel like that's perfectly valid. I feel like that's what everybody in this call is saying. Like, bro, come on, like, what's happening here? Like,
Sure. So
Yeah,
my
I'm
my
not-
worry
I'm
is the
down.
prescription is like, hey, no, she shouldn't be allowed to date him. And like, what if she's actually like, what if there is
is
something
anybody
there?
here
No,
saying
but no
that?
one's
Let's start
saying
with
no
this.
one's saying
Didn't say
that. No
Yeah.
one's saying
I haven't
that.
heard
I
This is
think
why
It's not
I
about,
think we're
no,
fighting
we don't even
demons.
have to go far. We don't even need to go so far as to say you're not allowed. Is it like, because I would, and I'm sure some other people would too, we would try to influence them not to have that relationship. I wouldn't physically stop them, but I would, if they ask my opinion, I'd feel like, yo, get
Okay,
out,
this is a
right?
good
Yeah, I
question.
mean, you're just
Wait, that's a
asking
good
what
question.
you're saying that the thing that we want to change is the social pressure, because realistically that's the only thing that any one of us can actually change. It's like, how much
Yeah.
social pressure do we put on someone when they come to us and say, "Hey, I'm dating a 90-year-old," right? Like
Get
that's
that
the
little
that's
girl. Sorry.
I don't want anyone to feel like they have to break up because their bubble says so, right? I'm not that kind of person, but I want people to be able to take the questions and have the questions being asked and maybe have me be concerned like, hey, I'm just sidebar. I like the sidebar idea. I think it's really reasonable. And I don't like the idea of people getting defensive when they're in an alternative relationship because look, as somebody who lives alternatively, I fully expect it. Ask me your questions. I know it's weird. I just moved countries for a man. Like I know it's weird,
That's a
but let
W
me
for
explain to
you,
you why it
not
was
gonna lie.
reasonable. And then if the 19-year-old isn't on the same page as her 50-year-old boyfriend or vice versa, I want to know why we're not on the same page. Why don't we know what's going on? Because I'm sorry, as somebody who's helped couples, who takes calls with couples, one of the biggest things I've seen in their age gap relationships is I will ask them a question and they have completely different answers.
Yes.
And it's really weird. And the man who's in his 50s and the girl who's in her 20s, like he has this idea that they're kind of going to be young for a long time. And she has
Yep.
this idea that eventually we're going to mature. And so
Yeah.
there is a stereotype that I just want to make sure people know they can fall into, but you could be the exception. You could be the anomaly. And I want you to be that. I want you to be the special person.
You should feel free to pursue your age gap relations, but also just understands that there's a lot of baggage that comes with that, and it might not work
That's
out the way
fine
that you're
too.
hoping
Like it's
for.
hard. Life is hard when you're alternative, but I want you to be prepared for your
Okay.
real,
Yes.
like the real
I view it
consequences
like
of your life.
smoking. I can't stop you from smoking, but you should feel bad for smoking. You should feel bad
Why?
for it.
No,
You
don't feel
shouldn't
bad
do
for
Are you
it.
smoking.
judging
Kill
people in
yourself
the
slowly.
lineup? Wick,
No, no,
are
no,
you
don't feel
judging
bad.
people in the lineup? Because I'm
I am-
judging people in
I'm
the lineup.
absolutely
So
judging people, but
let's
$10
judge people in the
is
lineup
perfect.
together.
$10 from Cheeky Banter to say, don't get mad. Y'all made an emotional argument. Make a better argument as to why instead of it just feels wrong. Don't say something shouldn't exist because you can't rationalize quote unquote
No,
feelings.
someone was saying that
And-
earlier. We should make a like an actual like moral argument as to why age gap relationships. I feel like there's more room in someone in their early 20s and someone in their late 30s. There's more room for abuse than would be in their late 30s.
Can I just ask this very important clarifying question?
Go ahead, yeah.
This is what it comes down to me. Can you tell me something that you would find concerning in an age gap relationship that you would not find concerning if it was two people of the same age? Because if not, then it proves my point that the age gap is just a proxy for the thing that you're really worried about. What's that?
I'll give you one. So if, for example, one person owns a house and the other doesn't, in a 20 to 50, I would be like, ooh. But in a 20-year-olds, I'd be like, oh, well, it's no big deal.
So wait, you wouldn't think that there's the same kind of power play happening here?
No.
I would think it's much more likely in the large age gap scenario. I don't know if that's just a feeling thing or if it's just because I think that like it would be more likely
Bathroom.
because well, good luck with the bathroom. But it's all about what you leverage in order to achieve the relationship, right? And so I think 20-year-olds, it's not likely something they leveraged, but someone who is significantly older, I think it's much more likely that because they're lacking in youthful vigor and looks,
they might use it like above your head to draw you in.
They use it as they're much more likely to use it as leverage. And again, this is just like likelihood. We're going to look at probabilities here, right? And so I can look at this age gap thing, I can look at this relationship, and I can be like, oh, there's a much higher probability in that case than 20-year-olds. But $5 from Cheeky Banter to say, Wick, didn't the left say love is love? Why is a perfect legal adult suspect for loving another legal adult?
Okay, I want to say clearly because I don't know. I'm just probably misspeaking. I would never advocate for adults not having agency. So like have your relationships and absolutely do it. And I'm not going to say that it's wrong and I would never moralize it as wrong. Like I don't want to do that because like plenty of my friends have age gap relationships, right? But there is a concern I have and a pattern I see in people, and I would like us not to fall into that very human trap of thinking you're so mature for 19. Wow, you're so mature for 21. I've never met anyone so mature at 22. And I feel like that is kind of a cope from everyone involved, and I don't think people are being honest with themselves. And so again, I'm not ever going to advocate for people not to be able to do this. Like that is not my stance. I want people to be able to have freedom. I just want people to be more honest about why they are in these relationships. And again, since I'm aiming to get people to be less dysfunctional, I find that often in age gap relationships, dysfunction is higher. Not like, yes, because of the age gap, but not because people mean to be. People fall in love all the time with
There's
dysfunctional
different
people.
spaces in their life, and they want different
different
things.
spaces, different, like literally your brain isn't as developed. You're literally talking about, like, I can't even tell you all the things that change in a woman's body by the time she hits 30, just biologically speaking. So again, all things are possible. just like people are getting married as teenagers in
Uh-oh.
other countries. But I'm saying, is
Am
that
I
what we
in for a
want?
roller coaster? Uh-oh.
Why?
Oh, because when I hit 30, I'm like, oh, am I in for
Yes,
it?
things really do change. And so again, you were heading into different parts of our lives. I just want to give people a warning of like, have less
Yeah.
dysfunction, but know that every possible relationship could be possible. But again, like I
But
really
that's
want to
my
say
thing
age
with, like,
matters. It has to
That's
matter.
that's also my thing with early 20-year-olds and people in their mid 30s. That you have such a big change in between that, right? You have so much learning to do before you hop into that. I feel like if you want to get into an age gap relationship, maybe you should wait until you're 40 and hit someone in your 30s rather than be in your 30s and hit someone who just got out of high school 3 years ago.
I don't think the idea is that somebody's seeking an age gap relationship for its being the sake of an age gap relationship. I don't think that's usually how it
There's
works.
lots of people that do that.
Well,
Literally what
she's
we know
saying-
them as, though.
Yeah, what?
She's saying if you're looking for an age gap relationship, I don't think that's
There are
how it
people
works.
that
There's
do
people
that.
who are looking
trophy
for.
wives.
But where else would
I
you meet those
mean,
people though? El Jazzy,
that's-
if they're not seeking age gap relationship, why would you be around people that much
You
younger
would-
than you?
You would,
Okay.
yeah, you'd literally be in
Maybe-
spaces where everyone's your age. You'd be at a
Well,
work
that's-
party. You like
that's
why?
not
What
necessarily-
are you
this
gonna
is-
go to the club with a bunch of 21-year-olds around? No way.
No, because there's this. I wish
It
I
was
had
the
the
way
sister
she said
Zena
it
here with
that
me.
I'm trying to
I
address.
wish I had the sister Zena here with me because she would tell you that a lot of young women will hang around places that these older men frequent specifically
not a
to be around
relationship.
these older men.
But
No,
that's
for
not
sure.
for a
Well,
relationship.
with the hopes of forming it, yeah.
No, with
Yeah,
the
because
hopes
they
of
get the
wanting
guy
money
who's
and
put together.
clout and shit from them.
Sure.
It's not for a relationship.
That's true. They're looking for a very specific kind of like situation, right?
Yeah.
So again, just like that's what I'm saying, they are looking for an age gap relationship. They're seeking one out.
I mean, also,
Yeah, I mean, I
think that-
don't
right?
disagree with that
So
point.
I'm saying
I
like
came in a little
people
bit
who
late,
in
but-
age gap relationships are often, but then the question is like why? Why
I
are
think
we
the
seeking
majority
it
I
of
out?
don't
people
think
aren't
it's
searching
a-
that shit out, though. The majority of people don't want that.
Well,
yeah,
I
and I
mean,
don't think
who's
it's
the
an
majority?
emotional. I don't think it's essentially an emotional argument to be pointing out that, like, yes, why is a 50-year-old hanging out with 25-year-olds? I like that. I don't think that it's emotional to ask why is that happening, right?
I think the reason why there's
Regardless of
claims
what the answer is, I don't think that that's emotional.
I think the
Is that just
reason
me?
why there's no,
No,
I
go ahead.
don't think that's emotional at all. I think the reason why there's claims of an emotional argument being made is primarily because we're saying things like it feels weird, it feels like this, it feels when we are giving reasons why it feels weird.
For sure.
It's just this simple statement of it feels weird, it feels wrong. You're gonna get people that say you're making a feeling argument. So instead of
that's
like
fair.
it feels weird, if we just changed our verbiage, like whatever, and that's
What-
my opinion. It's
But what
just
should the
a verbiage
verbiage
issue.
what should the verbiage be changed to?
I'm not an
People
optics.
should be
I
allowed
could
to
tell
make their
you,
own
but I'm not
decisions.
gonna
Reach
like
my ear.
optics Andy the hell out of this.
No,
I
no,
think
I'm
it's-
sorry.
At,
Just
least
ask
in
a question.
at least in this venue, it's more than okay to make feelings-based arguments because feelings matter. And feelings are important. And gang, what I'm feeling is that we have been going on for a couple hours, and I want to give people a chance to shout themselves out, tell people where they can find them, have these closing thoughts on this, and then we'll open it up for calls. How's that sound, gang? We good?
Okay.
Great.
Get some
Yeah.
callers, take a few callers, see what they
Mhm.
have to say. Maybe we have some age gap in callers. We'll find out. But I wanted to just give everyone a chance to have closing thoughts. Where can people find you, etc. We're gonna start reverse order. We started irrelevant. What you got?
Hi, I'm Irrelevant. I am AH Relevant. I'm on Twitch. I'm on Kick. I'm on YouTube. My closing thoughts about this is, when we're talking about age gap, large age gap relationships, it's sus. I just would figure out. It's not like sus where it's like, oh, there's clearly a predator involved. It's just like this is a relationship that takes a tremendous amount of communication and understanding to be able to really go into. If it's something that both parties or even one party, especially if there's a discrepancy, have when it comes to forming a long term. So there should be a significant amount of communication going into these relationships, especially going through these relationships. My opinion. But there was there was a little donation that happened way there at the beginning that we didn't really touch on very much. That I just want to touch on in the closing, which was about women, whether or not women in their 30s cope when they talk about these things, or whether or not it's a genuine concern for some of these younger women. I think it's probably for most people a bit of both, but I think it is fair for older women to feel slighted by the fact that they are older, because women unfairly get treated poorly.
I can't
when
wait
they
to get
older.
old.
So
Can't wait.
Yeah, the idea that it's just cope, I think it's fine that they're coping because they're treated
There
unfairly.
ain't no cope here, baby. I can't wait.
Well, cool. Age will come whether you want to or not. So I'm glad that you're
Good.
excited for it. Thank you, go check him out, gang. Irrelevant with an AH in there. So check him out. He's great. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Simon, Brittany, what you got?
Okay, obviously, I want to say it again. If you're legal adults, I want you to pursue anything in life you want to pursue. There's so much joy to be had in life, and sometimes you might be the age gap relationship of joy, and I want you to have that. But if you find yourself wondering, why aren't I joyful and what's going on, it's okay to also ask that question. And I think you might find yourself asking it a lot more if you're in an age gap relationship under 30. With that said, you can find me, Brittany Simon, on YouTube.
Thank you for being here. This is a great discussion. I really appreciate you. And we'll see what the callers have to say. I see one looking in there, raring to get in. I'm curious what he has to say. Elder Drazi, what you got?
I'm Eldrazi, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all that. I do wanna my closing thing here to include that I do think that if you're dating somebody who's significantly younger than you, you should keep that in mind. And if you do something that's gonna fuck them up, as people in relationships often do, you've probably done a greater harm because this person's gonna, grow and develop into their other relationships with the harm that you've done. But also, maybe just have relationships where you're not fucking terrible to the people that you're with. Be open and honest about your intentions and do your best to be a loving, caring partner no matter who you're with. The main reason why I really wanted to come on here was because I think it's insane to see people who are like a 27-year-old and a 20-year-old. That guy's a pedophile. And I see that shit on Twitter all the time. It's bonkers to me. They're like, you're still a child when you're 23. And this performative, crazy nonsense maybe makes me a bit more angry at more nuanced, reasoned conversations. And if I came off that way, I'm sorry. I hate when people get too crazy about some things. I appreciate Wick for having me on here, although I don't appreciate the only person here who lodged a complaint about my take from being a Mr. Girl fan was the fucking host. I expected all you motherfuckers to be pulling this shit on me, and it was Wick. But I get it; it had to be said at some point. But I thought it would be any of the rest of you instead of Wick.
It's funny, and no one else was stepping up to the plate. So sometimes you gotta, if you want a job done, you gotta do it yourself.
It would have been
Thank you for
weird if it
being
didn't
here.
come up.
Elder Drazi, I love you. Thank
I
you.
love you too, Wick.
Next up, someone who I also love, Ice Beans. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean this was fun. I mean, I think I'm basically more or less gonna go back to my position that I had at the start. I think I mean, look, do what you want. It's your life. You're an adult. You're gonna take on a bunch of problems. Some of them are gonna be social. Some of them are gonna be logistical. That's fine. I don't think it hurts to ask, like, why someone would do this or why someone would be in this space looking for these types of relationships. If you check it out, if you assess it and you come out on top, or you and your partner come out on top, that's fine. Do you. But I also don't think that it's wrong to ask why this is happening, or like, at least making an assessment if something nefarious is going on there. I'm ice_beans. A little bird on the screen will come and tell you my socials.
Okay, thank you again for being here. Appreciate it, especially the last minute replacement. So again, thank you for that. Really, really, gang, check her out. She's great. Last but certainly not least, the amazing, the aging Julie.
Aging?
Go
Who
ahead.
the fuck?
You said you were excited to get old. I'm helping you
I
out.
am excited to get old. I am. I'm gonna have great hair. I'm gonna look dope as fuck. Yeah, I'm Julie. I sidekick at Twitter, Instagram, whatever the fuck, blah blah blah. Fun.
Okay.
I
Well,
got a 6-pack. Let me live.
with that, let's bring on some callers. We'll do it one at a time, I think. And Smith, you're here first, so you're live. What you got?
Oh, all right. So yeah, I think there's a good reason. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Here.
Uh-huh.
There's
Yeah.
a good reason to get into an age gap relationship. That's because you're immature. I think that's actually a good reason, but only if you can admit it. But if you're not admitting, like, so if you're like 35 and you're dating a 20-year-old and you can admit that, no, like, I'm dating her because I'm basically like a 20-year-old, like, that's pretty dope. Like, that's the perfect relationship for you. And there's probably, I mean, there might be some
Are
other
you
issues.
advocating for 20-year-olds to seek out 35 and older people?
No, actually, like very much the opposite. I think
So
that
we shouldn't encourage it. Thank you.
there are never relationships like that where the older person is like admitting like their own like shortcomings, and that's why they're in the relationship. Like why they can't find a partner their own age. It's and the red pill community is all about telling men to date younger so that they can groom them into their own like perfect sex slave and their perfect live-in maid. Like they want like that. They think that women are impressionable when they're young, and then once you get them older, they're like set in their ways and they're just used up, and they're a person now. That's the point. They've become an individual, and you want to avoid that by grooming them when they're younger. But I do think that if you ask the right questions, then like why are you dating someone so much
Wait, why
younger
is that
than
wrong? Why is that wrong to want to train someone and how to be your perfect partner?
okay,
It's
I
predatory,
wish
isn't it?
Is it?
I wish that I was groomed in this way when I was 20. I would have gotten so much further in life, but I wouldn't be the person that I am now because I would just be an accessory to someone else. I wouldn't have developed into an individual. I would be somebody that exists as a counterpart to someone else's grand scheme.
Smith, can you answer the question if a 30-year-old could admit that they're immature to be with a 20-year-old? Can a 20-year-old ever be mature enough to be with a 30-year-old?
That's where, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I don't think it goes that way. I think all the responsibility goes on the 30-year-old. The 20-year-old is 20. Like they're not developed as much. Like there's so like I don't think there's anything wrong with a 20-year-old that's dating a 30-year-old, but I do think there's probably something wrong with a 30-year-old dating a 20-year-old.
Mm.
Really? What would be
Yeah.
wrong?
Like you're just like, a little bit developmentally stunted. You're not where you like should be in life or something. Maybe or maybe you're actually predatory and you like one of these like red pill gurus that are saying you need to groom women into whatever you want.
So let me ask you this. You got a 30-year-old man, okay, who, you know, he's having troubles. He goes back to college, okay? And he goes back to college, or maybe that's the first time he can get in college. So the people around him are college age, usually.
Yes.
And he happens to develop attraction for a 20-year-old that happens to be going college over there. Do you think that it would be wrong for the 30-year-old, or there to be something wrong with that 30-year-old for pursuing that relationship?
Kind of, but like it doesn't mean I think it's like he shouldn't do it. I think it's actually fine, but like he should admit that the reason that this is happening, like there could be some weird situations like the age thing, like Drazi was getting at. Like it's not the age, it's the other thing. The age is a heuristic. Like that is the age is a very accurate heuristic for your development. And like obviously I agree with what some of you guys, I think Brittany said that, I think it was Brittany, that once you're 30, it's like it's not like nearly the same thing. But like under 30, then the heuristic of age like shows a lot of where you are developmentally and where you are in life. So
Couldn't the
I
30-year-old dude just be dating her because, like, what if the 20-year-old's like throwing herself at him? He's like, "Oh, sorry, I can't." Like, there's weird dynamics. No, like if she's throwing himself at him, he's like, "Oh my God, she's so hot. Well, how is this happening to me? I don't even understand this." It's not that crazy to think he's just be like, "All right, fuck, I'm gonna go with it."
But isn't that an immature answer?
No, I think that it's a realistic answer. I think that I think that if most 30-year-old guys went back to college and a 20-year-old is throwing herself at him, like that's an amount of willpower that I just think most people don't have.
Yeah, because they lack discipline and they're like in their youth and they're living out their boy dreams. Like, love it. But like nothing about that is like discipline or maturity or any of that. And also, I'm not saying all 20-year-olds. Like, you can have a 28-year-old and like a 32-year-old or a 27-year-old and a 31-year-old. Or you can have a Relly who's 26 and like an old man. You can have like a 31-year-old.
An old
like,
man.
There's all these options. These
The
old
old
souls out here
mannerers.
need love too. But there's always going to be an age gap. There's going to be until you're 30, I'm curious on who you'll become. Because 30 is a real good marker for people in society in America right now, right? It's just like the way it is. We're not in our parents' America, right? So like
I think people in their 20s are still trying to figure out a lot of stuff. A lot.
I think most people are trying to figure out a lot of stuff, no matter where they're
Yeah,
at. in
I
life.
don't.
I think when
like,
you're in
I
your 30s, you
feel
kind of get
weird
more of
about
an
this 'cause
idea.
I'm
I think you
what?
get
Depends on
way
which
more
game
of an
you're
idea in
playing.
your 30s.
Julie, I hate to break it to you, but you're gonna turn 30, and then you're gonna turn 40. And
I
then
know
you're
I'm
turn
still going to be
50,
confused.
and you're
I
gonna
know I'm
be
still going to be
just as
confused.
You're gonna
Trust me.
have figured some stuff out, but you're
No.
gonna recognize
I know
that
I'm
there's
still
so
gonna
much
be
more that you
confused, but you
haven't
know I'm
figured
gonna have
out yet.
You know what I'm gonna have figured out? The way I want to style my apartment.
You gotta have so many different jobs. You gotta have this level of education. You gotta make this much money. You gotta have scraped your knees this many times before you're truly able to understand what kind of person you're looking for in a partner. You gotta have all these experiences.
Obviously, you can grow together.
It's not about whether you have to. It's just, or at least I guess not. Maybe not to some people. Some people, I guess, do it regardless, right? Or and just go off of looks or whatever else.
It just seems
right?
so weird to me.
You have to know yourself.
but
That's it. You just have to know yourself well enough to know what
That
you
takes
really
time.
want.
That takes
And that
time.
does take,
Other
it takes
than
a
being
lot
a
of things.
teenager.
I don't want to say there's one recipe or like one shoe, like it all fits all one size. I don't want to say that. I really don't. I don't want to discourage anyone from finding their joy because they don't meet some criteria. But I'm saying that there's something about life that's really sacred and it needs to be experienced and it looks different for all of us. But it's really about getting to know yourself. What do you know about yourself by the time you reach certain ages? That's the question.
How predatory was my ex-wife?
I don't know. I don't know your ex-wife.
Well, 17-year age gap. It seems like we identify
A
that there must be something
39-year-old
wrong.
we're
woman
not
and
saying
a 22-year-old
it
man?
is. We're not.
Smeth. I'm curious what Smeth would have to say. Smeth, how predatory was Elder Drowsy's ex-wife?
I don't know, like, but I gave two. It could be predatory, or it could be that she was immature. I think it's probably more likely she was immature.
Yeah, probably.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine though. It's fine.
She
Wait,
did have an apartment.
just to be clear, are we saying immature is anybody that wants to do things that younger people do?
Kinda.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think I'm
okay.
very
I mean,
immature.
Shut the fuck
Like in some ways, I think I'm very immature, and I have no problem saying that, girl. Like I'm 34, and I am not ashamed. But that's the thing is, like I own it because I'm not looking to be an old lady right now. I'm like enjoying my immaturity, but I'm still trying to buy a house. You feel me? But I'm still immature in some ways.
I don't know if I
sure,
agree with that
yeah.
entire. Well, I don't know if I agree with that because I mean, what are we saying is immature? What
Yeah.
specifically?
We're
What-
multifaceted. We're
There's
not
different-
singular
yes.
faceted.
Well, 20-year-olds
So-
or whatever are not ready to settle down. They
Well-
don't want to settle down. They don't want to have a family. They
might
don't want
be,
to buy a
though.
house. They don't want to do
Some
these
might
types of
be,
things.
Yeah,
right?
like me.
Some
Yeah,
might
like
be
me.
for
Some might
sure.
be.
Some might be for sure, but the
wanted to be
majority
married
don't
at
want anything
19.
to do with
Hold on.
that.
This is a very like super recent, super modern view. 20-year-old back in the day, even just 50 years ago, if you weren't married by 25, you were a spinster.
For sure.
You were done, right? Like you were done. You were a menace to society.
That's my
right?
concern, Wick. It's
I want
changed
people
so
to view me
quickly,
that
so
way.
fast. I'm concerned that these age gap relationships aren't reflecting the modern times. Because like
Well, I
age gap
think
was
that's what it
very
is.
normal.
Women have more of a choice
right?
now. They don't want to date these old men. They want to date men their
Unless they
age.
do, and then it's like it is what it is. That's what I'm saying. Do what you're gonna do. Just know why you're doing
but
it.
I think the majority of women don't want to date older men. The majority of women want to date men their age, and that's what we're seeing
Or
consistently.
men on their level, whatever that means.
Yes, yeah,
could-
but
which
still
could be
closer,
younger or older.
closer to men their age. Closer
Probably
to
5
men
to
their
10
age.
years is like the
let's
perfect
bring in
age.
the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
Smith.
Yeah.
On their level is
And
such a
Smith, we're
great
gonna
way
keep
to
you in here because I
put it,
like you,
Brittany.
Smith, and we're gonna keep you in here for a while.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I said that's
He
such a
likes
good way to
you.
put it on their level. I think that's a much better thing to talk about than age. And it's
Yeah,
a
I
much
think ultimately
smarter
But
way to
age
look
has
at it.
Yeah,
kind
but
of
I
a
guess
correlation
it-
with these things, right?
There
Drowsy,
could
yeah,
be.
that-
I think
that's
that's what the thing is. It could be.
Speaking of older predators, Soyaddle, how's it going?
All you
my God.
leftoids, I'm
Can
so
you braid
fucking
your
tired
beard?
of this.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, not just for you, but yeah, this is really terrible. I've decided I'm leaving the left. I'm now a libertarian because my girlfriend's 25. She's not here because she's in grad school, but Jesus F Christ, I am out of here with you leftoids. Come at me.
Who said
How
I
old are
was
you?
left?
Sorry, two people talking at once.
Brittany, go.
How old are you?
44.
Okay. What do you love about your girlfriend?
She's brilliant and she has a bright future ahead of her, and I want to help make that happen.
Okay.
You gonna pick her up from school when she's done? Like,
No,
I don't
no.
know.
Yes. She doesn't drive, so
No.
yeah,
Hey, hold on, wait. I
don't
don't think any of us ever said that age gap relationships are a definite no. We said that the majority of them don't work out for a reason.
You
If
just
yours is
do what
working
the
out, that's
left
great.
always does. You're ready to cancel me at any minute. Like I could just
I mean, if
see
we're in
between
line
the
at
lines.
Starbucks, I might look
Okay.
at you weird, yeah. But like,
I have-
What's your claim, friend? Like, what's your actual take here?
Well, no, this is my actual take. Is that age
He
gap
wants to
is-
defend
is
himself.
fine. I think that
What-
it's just
Are
as
you
likely
are
that
you
someone
immature,
of the
like
same.
Seth claims?
Oh yeah, sure. I'm a little immature. I'm on Twitch. I'm a Twitch broadcaster. So yes, I'm incredibly immature. But also, I think that age gap is not in a prior indicator of problem in the relationship. You're gonna have problems in most relationships. Guess how many end in divorce?
Do you not feel like age gap relationships give space for more problems to form, though?
Nothing deterministic.
Well,
Nothing even
saying
close
At
to
all?
anything.
I mean,
Nobody's saying any of it
the
is
logic of
deterministic.
this. You know who else uses that logic? The bell curve. Goodbye, racist.
I'll
I
take
didn't
it.
say
I'll run with
Right.
it. Sure, why
he
not?
avoided
All right,
himself. Very cool.
I'll tell you, definitely makes an impression.
I really wanted to
I'll
ask
run
him
with
a
it. Why not?
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
There's a good
I don't
one
know.
too.
I had a question, right? Like last time he was on, he propositioned Merc off the perk to have his wife impregnate her, and that was an interesting business
Can we talk
venture.
logistics?
I don't know
But
if that's. Can that happen?
We need
Well,
more info. You
maybe-
can't just drop that out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
I need a little more, Wick. Come on, I'm trying
Look,
to get off. Can you
I'm
give me some
trying to
details?
process it myself. Okay, but let's bring on the next contestant on whatever the fuck this is. Next contestant, hello.
Wait, can I say something about maturity, quick, fast?
You can while this person
which
figures
one?
out their
Okay.
audio.
All right. So maybe it was just my interpretation, but usually when I hear maturity, I'm not thinking just young people do this and then I don't do it, therefore, I like to do it, therefore I'm immature for my age. Usually, when I hear maturity, I'm thinking of being able to take care of yourself or being able to fulfill some kind of obligation or responsibility that is put on you that you should be able to do. Probably if you have your stuff, your things in order. Like your whole life isn't a mess. So you're able to clean your apartment, you're able to pay your taxes, you're able to pay your bills, you're able to do these things. Generally speaking, if you have the financial means. This isn't to say if you're poor, you're not mature.
Well, generally
but that if you
speaking,
have the
early
financial
20-year-olds
means,
are
then
way
you're
too
able to-
dumb to do all that stuff.
No. I'll give you one, Relly, because this is what I'm curious about. Okay, I agree with you. That's one part of it. That's like the adulting survival part. But then what if your guy like Dutch ovens you and farts and burps in your face? Like, I think that's highly immature, right? Like, I'm not in the mood.
Sure.
But
That's
like, that's
flavor
what I
for
mean. Is
later.
like that
I mean,
could be
unless
fun
you
for
don't
some
care about
couples.
it.
Right. For sure. No judgment, right? Like, no judgment. But I'll tell you this, like when I think of like what is maturity, I'm thinking of all facets of my life. So like what are my habits? What are my goals? Like when I look at my parents, they're adults, okay? They're like serious adults. I am not there. To say that I'm as mature as they are, and stuff like maybe in some ways, maybe when it comes to social issues, but like what does that mean, right? So when I say like what is immaturity, I'm asking what is the lifestyle we're living? And I just think some lifestyles are more immature because they're more childlike, they're more free, they're less responsibility, they're more like let's party every weekend. If you're partying every weekend in your 50s, even though you pay your rent and have a mortgage and have a child you take care of, your lifestyle is still kind of immature to me. But like it's fine because I watch anime.
Mature is when
You know?
boring. Got you.
Well,
Isn't
that's fine.
maturity just a
Well-
mechanism which we use to shame each other? Like it's like if this person says
Again,
something that I would
We're
only
not
think
moralizing it.
immature.
I'm not moralizing it. Like
So-
like again, you have to know what lifestyle you're in. I couldn't date someone that Dutch ovened me. Like it's not even an option. I'm not
So,
interested. But it's not
when-
moralizing it.
Well, shame
when
on
we're
you.
talking about maturity in this context, and we're saying that a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old is immature for going after like a 20-year-old, I think most people are moralizing your use of the word mature there. Everybody's
Okay.
using the word mature.
Okay, I want to
I
make
think
sure that
that's
it's
how
not
most
what I mean.
people.
Yeah, well, the reason the word mature is the primary the operating word is because like it's like a as you age you get more mature, and it's like that is the aging is the mechanism through which you gain maturity. So like it's like the moralizing is coming from like that's not what she's talking about. She's using that word because it's aging.
It's not.
Well,
just aging.
I
I'm-
want to I
well-
want to give a chance to our guest here. What's your name? I'm sorry. F. I just got straight remember mine. I can't tell. Yeah, say
Flip.
something. We can't hear you. Hello.
What about now?
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
hey.
Sorry about that. Good to see you again, Wick. Y'all can call me Flip.
Flip,
Calling
gotcha.
in again. It's the second time, but it's good to see you again. I'm in a age gap relationship. I'm not gonna say specifically how old I am because I generally don't talk about my age, but my partner is very young compared to what I would usually find acceptable in
Can
my
you give
partner.
us the gap? You don't
Yeah,
have to say your age.
my partner is 18 and it's over 10 years.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and it is so we met in kind of a like an age neutral space. And I thought they were much older when I first met them. And it was a situation where we really clicked and we were talking. We found we had a lot of the same values and a lot of the same desires. And I spent a good long time thinking, like, am I not like fully should I reject this because of just the age? And I came to the conclusion that, like,
Wait, are they 18 now?
yeah, they're 18 now.
That's crazy.
When
I'm
did
not
you
gonna
meet
lie.
them?
It's hard. And
Uh,
I mean, no, they
Hard? When did you meet them?
when they were 18, when they were 18.
Okay, so it's a
Okay.
brand
So
new
this
relationship.
is
Yeah.
a brand new relationship. Okay.
Yeah, this
I
is
was gonna have some
I don't
specific
think this
questions.
is gonna have much relevancy among this because you just met them. They're very young. I don't know.
Well, I
like,
want to. I do want to hear the
I
question.
mean, let Flip
couple of
talk. Yeah, I
months,
want to know.
relatively new. What I'm going to say is it's one of the hardest relationships I've ever been in.
yes.
And that is because we have to be so intentional about our communication and so intentional about what we both want and are both thinking. And in fairness, because we are both aware of like, hey, these age gaps in relationships can go really badly. Because of that, we've had really intense communication. And because of that, it's been really good. It has also been by far one of the most demanding relationships I've ever been in. And so I guess kind of what I'm going to say is like, if you're in an age gap relationship and it's easy, you're probably doing it wrong.
That's probably
Because
true, yeah.
I mean, the level of just we're sitting down and we're talking about whatever's on our mind. It's hard and it's fulfilling and it's wonderful and it's hard. That's what I've got.
Any thoughts on this?
I
What
Any
is the
think it's
gender neutral?
crazy.
Are you
I think
public
it's
about your
crazy.
gender neutral space that you met your partner in?
Not for this conversation, but in general, yes. Not
Okay.
gender neutral, age neutral. You know,
Yeah.
everybody is like 18 to 35 kind of thing.
What was it online?
It was, yes.
That's.
Okay.
I think
I
it's
actually.
that's crazy.
Okay, so I have a question, right? Apart from like, would you say the difficulties, apart from the one that you just mentioned, right? Where would you say that the difficulty in your relationship comes from? Would you say that like
I
how much
didn't
of and
say
how much of how
I
much
didn't
of would oh sorry, go
I
ahead.
didn't say it was difficult. I said it was hard. And there's
Well,
a
I mean,
difference.
What?
aren't those
What
synonymous?
Yeah.
I would say difficult. Like for me,
Effortful, like you have to put in
it
effort.
requires effort. Yes, it's not.
Okay.
You know, the effort, the communication has felt very natural. It requires a great deal of effort to make this work.
Okay, and so then my follow-up question would be, how much of that would you say is, like combating like social pressure versus like things that are within your relationship that you have to work on?
I would say a lot of it is combating social pressure.
So you met online, right? You've
Mhm.
only ever been talking online. How realistically do you think this is like in 5 years? Do you think you're still going to be with this person?
I can't predict the future. And
But you'd
I'm
like
certainly
to?
like aware of the fact that, 50% of marriages end in divorce and most relationships end in failure.
Well, also age gap relationships like this tend to, not
I know.
last.
I know. And that's something that's on the back of my mind. But for now, there is a distinct closeness that I never first of all, I never thought I would ever have this in somebody of that age. And I really considered just at the start when I
What
found out
made
how
you
old they were.
change your mind on that? What put it over the edge where you put aside your gut feeling, right? Your predisposition to be like, ugh, I don't know. And what made you set all that aside, said, okay, no, we're gonna actually try this.
Well, it was really having to sit down and be like, okay, who is this person? Why am I interested in them? What are our shared hobbies and interests? And other than the age itself, this really met, most of what I need in a relationship. I'm looking for that shared interest. I'm looking for that, without getting too personal, that compatibility and the level of communication. I mean, I saw my partner now really engaging in really robust communication that I don't see in people my age half the time.
Very
And
mature for an 18-year-old. Gotcha.
I don't think any 18
how much-
mature. I don't
Well,
think any
okay, no,
18-year-old is very mature.
How
There's
much-
no
how
fucking
much it-
way.
How much of that compatibility is sexual?
25% or less.
Hmm.
I would say it's important and relevant in any relationship. Certainly, I could not be in a non-sexual relationship, but really, it's attitude, it's faith as a component, it's kind of the same outlook on life, and I think that does speak to my immaturity, which I will freely freely acknowledge. I'm definitely a little bit immature for my age, but yeah, it was all of these kinds of green flags where I had to come. Like I've really thought about it. I talked about it with my therapist. I talked about it with my friends. I'm like, I really don't know. And then I came to the conclusion, if I don't pursue this with all of these green flags, am I just making an arbitrary judgment?
How old are you,
so-
and how old is this person?
This
Well, they didn't want to say
they
their
didn't
own
wanna
age.
say.
I don't
Okay,
talk
they
about
said
me.
they were 18. They said this person just turned 18.
Several
They s-
on the back
And
half of
there's a-
18 at this point.
This is
And-
this is wacky
How-
Oli, my dude.
How
Here it
often do you
is.
feel?
Well,
How often do you feel like you are sort of a mentor to them?
We're really intentional about me not wanting to be too much of a mentor to them. Especially
But they
because,
definitely
like,
rely on you for shit because
Well, okay, hold
and
on.
I
We rely on
rely
our
on my
I don't
partners
even
for a
think I
lot
can
of
have this
hold on,
conversation. I'm gonna get
actually,
offensive. I'm gonna mute myself.
Is this relationship like is it purely online or is it? Oh, I mean, I know you said something about sexual being 25%, but is this person just online or
we're
is
gonna
there?
we're trying to meet soon, but
Oh,
for now
okay.
it's online, yeah.
Okay.
Which also is not something I thought I'd ever do.
hmm.
So would you
Um,
say like you're in love? Because it sounds like you really have a real strong connection with this human.
Yes.
I think that's really fair that you're having this. Do you fear that meeting them? Because I know I started off long distance over Discord, and I knew that if I smelled him and didn't like the way he smelled, that was gonna be it, girl. So like, do you ever fear that you're gonna meet them and it's just like not gonna vibe, or do you have any of
Yeah.
those concerns? Yeah,
I'd
I
say
think that's fair.
a very real possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It sounds like you're really in a moment, like you're gonna remember this forever, whether it works or doesn't work.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
when we meet, that's gonna really
Never
make some
forget it, not
difference.
even after years of therapy kind of moment. Let's see.
I think
don't
it's
know.
really
I
cool
can't
that you're not letting other
judge.
people tell you that it's
Yeah.
wrong.
A
You're
lot of
doing
people
your
do.
thing.
Well,
Well, I'm saying you're not letting it dictate what you're doing.
Well, it's not nearly as wrong as if it was in real life. Okay. So here's the thing. So so if this was so the fact that this is online has a lot less red flags for me. I think that
Really?
yeah. There still could be some red flags, but like once they meet up, I don't think I think the chances of it working out are low. That's what I think. But I mean, I could be wrong.
Good lord.
I don't know. We'll meet, we'll see how it feels, we'll talk about it, and if it doesn't work, it
I
kind
don't
of
think that
is
you
what it
should
is.
meet. I think that's kind of insane to say that. And I think that, like, literally, middle girl on the panel, I don't know who you are, love you for muting yourself because you have so much more tolerance than I do for this kind of shit.
Listen,
Because-
I had to mute myself because I was about to get fucking offensive.
Yeah,
wait, hold on. Before we get too derailed, I want to bring up a point that when people were talking about maturity earlier, this is kind of what I would have answered, and that kind of ties into what Flip is saying. For me, maturity isn't about like the amount that you have in your emergency fund or something like that, but more so how can you handle situations like do you take someone coming home being cranky as like this is who they are as a person, or can you see that like, oh, okay, well, they're cranky because X, Y, and Z? Can you have a conversation without yelling at your partner? The more interpersonal, like how do you handle certain situations? How do you handle lost luggage? That sort of like, I mean, that I know that that's a more experience related thing, but it's, to me, I guess in a way, you can see that sort of maturity come out of younger people. I think that speaks to what Flip is kind of going through. But I just wanted to know like what people thought of that definition of maturity.
I think that's what's called emotional intelligence.
Yeah, like you can get a
Yeah, I
kind
guess
of a
that's
whiff of that from younger people, but yeah, it does. You said it comes from experience, and that's true. It does necessarily come from
Yes, but
experience.
some people.
9
Okay,
times
but
out of
the
10,
problem. I think the problem.
9
I think the
times out of
problem is.
10, you want to talk about outliers. 9 times out of 10, it's coming from experience. The only
But
people
what if
who
they are the
having this-
outlier? What if they're the exception? Are they allowed to be
That's
in love?
fine.
Usually those
that's fine. If
exceptions-
you're an outlier,
usually-
you're an exception.
usually-
That's the reason why. You're an
But
exception.
even-
Do what you
Well,
want.
okay,
usually,
but for
but those
example, if you
exceptions are
have a-
usually victims of abuse. The reason you grow up fast
Yeah.
is because you were abused. So continuing to so those people I think
No,
need
when
even
I'm
more
talking
extra
about
space.
when I'm talking about exceptions and outliers, I'm
That's
talking
true.
about people. I'm talking about
Yeah.
relationships that actually works because it's healthy, not because someone's abused and dating someone.
There are no
Well,
Okay.
I would
mature
say that, like,
18-year-olds who are like emotionally healthy.
Well, when we're talking about these
Maturity
things
Yeah,
is
coming
like
okay,
from,
but, like, at this
self-realization,
point, a
and
lot
that
of-
comes
I
from
feel like if you wouldn't have
experience.
dated them 6 months ago, you
us
shouldn't
are
date
not
them now.
emotionally healthy, right?
Yes, agree.
I mean,
Can you
okay,
wait,
I,
wait,
I know
Simon, what did you say? Can you
40-year-olds who
repeat
are-
that for the class?
I said if you wouldn't have dated them 6 months ago, you shouldn't date them now.
Agree. Thank you.
But I understand that people come into our life and we have special moments, and I hope that this relationship gives you everything you need from
You
it.
can
And I
have
hope you
special
guys treat
moments,
each other
but you
well.
should
I
also
hope
understand
that
just because you
your
have a special
current
moment doesn't mean you
partner
need to
does
date
not
them.
need too much therapy when he breaks up with you and realizes that
Or
he or she learned things in the wrong way from the wrong person that he or she needed to learn from people his own age or her
Yeah, I
own
mean,
age.
Yeah, we all learn the way
but
we
every
learn.
relationship is a learning experience.
All of them.
Yes,
Yeah.
but there's a certain amount of learning that you get with people who also don't know fuck all. And that's what you need when you're young.
Do you guys not ever enter spaces where people are different ages? Like, have you never worked or gone to a college? Like, you're not.
No, I
always-
have, but I wouldn't consider fucking them
No,
or
I'm not
dating them.
Listen,
I
I'm
would.
not attacking
Fucking
any
them, yes.
Hold on,
Let's go, Smith.
I'm not attacking anybody's position. But the thing is that you can be young and learn from other people before you enter into an age like it. Like,
Yeah, that's what I think that's the difference
Yeah, I
between
wasn't trying to
age gap
attack, by the
fucking and
way.
age gap relationships. You should be able to be young and have those experiences and learn from them before you jump into a 21 and 35 and try to have babies with this person. You have so much more to learn.
I
Go
was
do
21.
shit. Go fuck around.
Well, he
Fucking
was
babies.
21. Hold on, he was 21. I'm 30. We're gonna be married 10 years next year.
Congratulations.
The thing
Wait,
that-
wait. Sorry. You said 21 and 10 years married?
He was 21. I was
He
30.
was.
Oh,
I'm-
I thought you meant you got married
No,
when
no,
he was.
sorry.
Oh,
Hell
sorry.
no.
I was like,
Look,
fucking. My bad.
Look, I had a line and he like skirted it because I said
Well-
22.
Well, there's always couples that you know, come out of these relationships or whatever. There's always outliers. But I think for the majority of people, it just doesn't work that way.
So that's what
Yeah, and I don't think that's a hard line either, because I think at that point, like at 30, you're still kind of trying to like not only help other people.
I was divorced with 2 kids. I don't want to twist my story. I was divorced with 2 kids. He was a 21-year-old virgin.
Yeah, but
Wow,
you have
that's
like you have a
that's
certain
great.
level.
Oh, you roped him, bro. What?
That's crazy.
I have less of a problem with it for no good reason
Wait.
whatsoever. I have less of a problem with it when it's a woman, because it's the opposite of the social like thing that always happening. Like, but that's wrong of me to think this, but it's some
Honest
weird
man,
feminist.
Smith.
Well, no, I was
Honest man.
actually going to comment on that. Socially,
I have more of an issue
it
that he's
has
a virgin.
always socially.
I would have more of an issue because he's a virgin as well.
That's the big red flag for me.
The virgin thing is it was a religious thing, and so it was.
That's
fine
another
for me.
flag.
So well, for you it would be.
Throw him up, throw him
Thank the Lord he wasn't trying to marry you. But yeah, the virgin thing. Actually, I'm gonna be very honest. I was like, congratulations. Like I didn't shame him for it, but yeah, I took several fucking steps backwards because I was like, hold up. This is a literal child. By the way, he's only 10 years older than my oldest. So there's also that. I took several steps
You
back.
lost everyone when you said you acknowledged to yourself that
Yeah,
you think it's a literal
that-
child.
That's a little weird.
Okay,
Right?
the facts
that's
don't
a
matter
little-
anymore.
That's a
Your
bit wacky
opinion is
doodle,
that you were
dude.
dating a
That's a bit
literal
wacky
child.
doodle.
Yes,
Wait, isn't
that's
that the
why-
wacky
hold on.
doodle.
That's why I wanted to come on here because I was like, this is a literal child. Like, I'm 30 years old. Well, right?
But then you said I'm fucking.
No,
Literal,
we went.
literal is a bad word to use there.
Well, no, I'm just because I'm being honest about my thoughts, right? Why come on here and fucking lie about a situation, right? I had all the same
Wouldn't have been the worst
concerns.
idea.
I
that
had all the same concerns that everybody else had, but here's the reality: he wasn't a child. He was a 21-year-old. He was in the military.
Well, you made him a man, right?
Right? Yeah, I did.
that makes a lot more
Yeah,
sense
like
with
you
the virgin
groomed him
thing.
into the man that you wanted him to be, which is fucking weird.
The military
have-
grooms you, so he's
Yo.
pre-groomed.
Yeah, he came pre-groomed. The military helped me.
Jesus
But
Yo,
no, in
your
all,
face.
in all
Yo, your
seriousness,
face.
we had a lot of, in all seriousness, early on, we did have a lot of problems because of the 9-year age.
But that's what it is with age gap relationships.
Yeah,
they can
so
work. They can work out, but you're going to come with a lot of
There
problems.
are-
Most people don't want to deal with that type of bullshit. They rather date people in their age range.
That's
Well,
what,
hang
that's
on,
what I'm
wait,
coming on here to
but
say.
you
Like,
say
there are
it can work
issues that
out.
have to be. There are issues that have to be acknowledged. I took a chance. It worked out for us.
Take a chance
are- you
on
know,
me. Sorry.
That's but if somebody else doesn't want to, I would understand that. But my point that came on here to make, I understand why people side eye age gapped relationships, but I think it depends on the age gap. If a 70-year-old like fucking billionaire is with a 20-year-old, I'm pretty sure he knows why she's there. And
Yeah.
therefore, I don't fucking care anymore at that point. She knows what, in my opinion, she also knows why she's
Yeah,
there.
there's no way she
So
doesn't
I
know
think
what's up.
I think it is very dependent on the type of relationships we're talking about. What are the actual ages of the
Can
people?
I give you a side eye in the Starbucks lineup or no?
Yeah, like that's fine. I side eye people all the fucking time for very
Yeah, that's
Wait,
what I want to hear.
It's not about whether people should be allowed to have these relationships. It's
I
about
gotta go.
what is a healthy relationship.
I gotta go.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye,
I just wanted to say there could be elderly abuse there, but all right, have a good day.
possible.
All right. See ya.
Okay, Booth, what were you
It's
saying?
like
I'm sorry.
everybody is saying that like 70-year-olds should be allowed to date 30-year-olds. Like nobody's saying that should be illegal, right? But the problem is whether or not this is a healthy relationship. And I don't think that you can have a healthy relationship with somebody who has yet to experience the world.
I'm just gonna
What
put
does
it
it
out
mean
there.
to experience the world?
I
I
think
struggle
you
with that.
You
I think
could.
I think you need to define what having to experience the world is, because I can almost guarantee everybody's definition in here. I haven't experienced the world. Like
yeah, I don't think you're mature.
Okay, that's fine. But
Well,
other
I
people would
think
find
you
me
can
to
have a
be
healthy
mature
relationship without
to be able to
maturing.
do that. Like
Do
I
all
think
of our
sitting
relationships
inside
have
and
to
being
be
able to do things that are more indoors and not really experiencing the world in a way that
It has
you would
nothing to do with
consider to be-
indoors. It has to do with like self-realization, to be able to understand yourself and understand yourself in relation to
Okay.
others.
Okay,
Yeah,
but to
you don't-
check, I don't think you have to have
There's
romantic
people-
relationships to know yourself. I think
But
that's a
there's-
way
Yes,
to know yourself.
exactly. Yeah.
But I think there's
Yeah,
people out
you
there
don't
that
have
just
to have
don't give a fuck
relationships.
and just want to have babies and kids and don't fucking care about learning
Yeah,
this
that's
and learning
fine.
that.
And is that
traveling.
healthy? Are you
But I
in a
don't think-
healthy
but
relationship?
I don't think the majority of people, like I think the majority of people want to go out and go learn and do this and do that before they fucking get into an age gap relationship or get into any relationship in general. Like having a long-term relationship in your early 20s is crazy for most people because they just
No,
want to
that's
fuck
pretty.
around.
Well, that's
Just real
pretty
quick.
common depending on your bubble. Like, what culture are you talking
Just real
about?
quick.
Yeah,
Just real quick.
that's
I guess
Candice
maybe in
hasn't
Western
had a
Canada and the
chance yet.
people I've been around, I would say.
Candice hasn't. Is that how you say your name, Candice? You haven't had a chance yet, and I see you shaking your head. Now it's your time to shine, brother. Go ahead.
Oh,
Beautiful,
yeah.
wonderful.
Amazing.
You nailed it.
Beauty.
It was your time to shine. You
I
fucking.
don't know. I was
you
talking about my
fucking-
bubble. I'll give me 10
Go
minutes. I'll be right back.
Nick is on one tonight.
Okay,
What the
do your
hell's
thing.
wrong with
Do your
you
thing.
today?
Can we just
Yes,
say like it's probably good and part of your development to have bad relationships? Like
Yeah,
I
but
think that if
bad
I didn't have the
relationships-
bad ones, it
yeah.
would hurt my best ones.
But bad relationships with people your own age because you guys both learn together.
What?
I think
don't
the
think
older
that's
women
necessary.
What
learned
do you
a
mean?
lot from me too. All right.
What's you teach her?
I learn a great deal from my partner every day. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I don't believe you.
I learned how to manage money.
I don't need you
Well,
to
that's
believe
like,
me.
well, no. Excuse me. We have age gap relationships in our lives every day. It's called our parents and our teachers and our we learn from each
Ew,
other all the
Brittany.
time. I'm
Gross.
sorry.
Okay,
We
hold
learn
on.
from each
I
other all
mean,
the time. So there is
how
something
is that
learning.
relevant? That's not a romantic
Because-
relationship.
Well, because
not-
you're insinuating that the romance is what makes you unlearn, but you can learn things in a romantic relationship regardless of age gap. Like it doesn't change anything just because it's romantic. You're still learning.
But the problem is that it's a reciprocal relationship with an age gap
Oh, a
relationship.
symbiotic
or is it-
relationship for sure. Like I agree that there's
So
not
you're supposed to be giving and taking, and with teachers and parents, they're giving and you're taking.
Boy,
Right,
parents
well,
learn a lot about life by raising
their
their kids.
kids.
Yeah,
learn-
let's
I would
not
agree
act
with
like
you
that is a
symbiotic. Their
massive
goal is not
experience
to
that people
learn.
have.
Their goal is to teach.
Well,
No, wait, their goal is to
I
do
would disagree.
both. They
They
learn
do
about
both.
how to be a good parent
No,
and
yeah.
grow from their
I will
kids.
push the
That's-
hell back on that.
Yeah.
You learn from being a parent because you.
Okay,
know
yes,
what
I
the
know
hell
you
you're
learn from being a parent. I'm saying that the relationship is one in which the parent is in charge and dictates to the child.
Sure.
No, I see what
In
you're saying in
general,
terms of
yes.
I would say that's true that both relationships are happening at once. And in the more romantic relationship, again, the worry is just like the intentionality here because there is that chance for accidentally encouraging the younger person to go around into a journey that they're not prepared for. Like they might not know what they're consenting to, right?
Yeah.
And that could be the older person too. I've met older people who have definitely like confessed their love to me. And I'm like, no, girl, like you're not in love with me. You're just Mormon and coming out of the church. And like that's not the same thing. So you have to be the more mature person, regardless of age, has to be the one to like put people on the path. But that's the problem is just generally speaking, it's going to be the older person. Hopefully, God, I hope it's the older person who's more mature. You know what I mean? That's kind of the goal.
Not always, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, as whoever Flip said, like there are plenty of older people who are less mature, but instead they went with a younger person who they see as more mature, which I think ideally you would
They're
find
having
somebody.
a moment with a consciousness. Just let them fucking have it, okay? Like,
I mean, I think it's wrong, so I'm going to say it's wrong. I think they shouldn't
Why
do
is
that,
it
and I
wrong?
think that they could be like harming that person.
Can I just point out something that I don't think anybody has? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes a certain mindset to be attracted to an 18-year-old or like even below that. So like,
We haven't
yeah,
discussed below
we're
that.
we're talking about the red flags without necessarily saying that like it's
Okay,
kind
if I
of
take a
wrong
picture
for that.
of a mature, like matured as in physically matured, not mentally, right? Like an 18 to 21-year-old, and I took that picture and I asked of an attractive one, and I asked guys of all ages,
Yeah,
hey,
but
do
Wick,
you find
nobody's
this
asking
Is
who
it
you want to
attractive?
fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we just keep referencing like our monkey brains, and I don't know why we're doing that.
I think it's
Well,
kind of weird that he's like,
at least-
I think it's, you have to have a certain mind to be attracted to 18-year-olds. Yeah, that's why Hollywood never cast them in roles as like the attractive person ever, right?
Well,
That's
Hollywood
not a
is
mass
super
appeal to
corrupt
most
and, like,
people.
There's like so much
Well, so
rape in
there's-
Hollywood. Why are we using that as an example of good? Like,
No,
there's
I said it wasn't an example of good. It's about, he said
okay.
you have to have a certain mindset to be attracted to an 18-year-old. There's a reason why Hollywood casts 18 to like 23-year-olds in like the sexy person role all the time because it works. It's not selling if people aren't
I
attracted.
think that's more of a
I don't
societal
know.
thing
Well,
to me,
People
at
didn't,
least.
most people didn't realize how
What does
young
societal
Scarlett
thing mean?
Johansson was. Like,
If it's
most
not
people did
reflective of
not-
individual
Keira
collectively.
Knightley was 17 in Pirates.
Yeah,
I know
Keira
we all
Knightley-
had the problem.
yeah.
But with Flip's situation, I think it's when you don't know the age of somebody, because like, look, I used to go to all age parties too, 18 to 35, like the next generation parties. And one time I was in bed with a girl and I was shook to find out she was 19 and I was only like 26, but for me that was scarring because I was like, get out of my bed. Because for me, like I can't do under 21. Like you can't even buy a beer. Like what are we talking about here? You can't rent a car. Like what are we talking about? But again, we're all going to have our different versions of ick. We're all going to have different versions of our limit. So again, it does interest me. Like why would you be interested in an 18-year-old? But with Flip's situation, they weren't interested in an 18-year-old. They were interested in a person they didn't know their age, right?
My base limit is typically 25.
Fair. Like fair.
And if I could have my partner, but 10 years older, I would do that in a heartbeat. Because
So you're like
it's
in love
just-
with the consciousness. You're like in love with this
Yeah.
person, and this
Yeah.
person happens
Yeah,
to
but
be
the
18.
consciousness is
my
not like
partner
fully
to be
realized.
much
Well, I
older,
mean,
I would
50-year-olds
gladly
aren't
take
fully
that.
realized. So again, I would argue that I don't recommend this, and I doubt it will work for long term. But maybe they don't want long term. Maybe they just want for as long as it lasts, which is valid.
I really like that you said you can't buy a beer. Imagine if I was like, well, I couldn't date a chick that couldn't get drunk. You know, that's
No, it's about
such
agency.
weird.
It's about agency.
Yeah,
How responsible
it's,
can you
yeah.
be?
I
Like,
just okay. I just think it's weird
Or
to say that, like,
or
that
capacity
being able to
to
buy a
be
beer is a
independent,
weird
right?
metric. It
That's
came
funny.
off as
Like
really weird to
from where
me.
I'm from, that's like what we say. That's like our joke.
Okay.
Like, can she buy a beer? Can
I
they at least
wanna-
buy their own beer? Like, are they adult enough to? Have they at
Sure.
least reached this age? It's just like a
I
saying.
wanna-
Or
I wanna
are
pass
they
it real
are
quick.
they
Hey,
like
hey, gang. I want to pass it to Fairy Queen real quick, who just got in and hasn't had a chance to speak yet. So, Fairy Queen, now's your time to shine. Give it a go.
Hi, you guys. So I am going to shift gears a little bit. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all. I'm not going to talk about the predatory, stuff. I'm not going to engage with that because I think that that's been juiced to death. What I want to do is I want to turn back to an original question that I asked earlier with my super chat, which has to do, is it morally acceptable to subject your partner to essentially being your caregiver in older age? And a question I guess I would like to ask all of you here before I continue with that. How many of you have a relationship with your grandparents? Is anybody here really close with their
Mine are
grandparents?
dead.
I mean, I was
Oh,
before they
well,
died.
really close,
got
isn't
grandpa.
I was close to all my grandparents before
I'm
they
close
passed.
with my in-law. My grandparents are dead. I'm close with my husband's grandparents though.
So
I'm not
my
close, but yeah.
So my grandfather died when he was about 50, and he died of cancer. That was extremely difficult for my family. My other grandparents, who were much older, who had my father when they were pretty far along in life, also died, which means that I, as the eldest child, am really the only one out of my 5 siblings to have had any real relationship with most of my grandparents. We have only one living grandmother. I know for that many families, it's not just your mom and your dad that takes care of you, right? You have a relationship with your grandparents. You rely on your grandmother. You rely on your grandfather. And I really would like to interrogate something that Brittany said and something that Our Relevant touched on, right? What is the relationship really for? Why are you here? I think that's a really good question. I think it's fair to say that not everybody wants to get married or wants to be in a relationship because you want to have kids or because you want to be married. I do think that that's true for a lot of people, though, right? And if that is something that you want, if you want to be married specifically to have kids, do you want to risk depriving your children of you being there as their grandparent, of you helping your children raise your grandchildren, of you not being able to see them graduate from high school? Because to me, if you're just choosing to be in an age gap relationship, you are sort of rolling the dice that you're not going to have that relationship with your grandchildren, that you're not going to be able to form those relationships. And that may not be terribly important to you right now. It's going to matter a whole lot, though, especially as you get older. I mean, we've been talking about relationships from our perspectives of who we would like to date. But my perspective is a little bit different because I've seen how it affects my parents and their relationship with their parents. And it takes a heavy toll on you when you don't have your parents to rely on in later adulthood. You still need to have access to those relationships. Many people rely on those
Can
relationships.
I ask, at what point do you think it's too old to have a child?
When your body says it is. I was
No,
gonna pick.
but like for men specifically, because they can have
Oh,
a child
okay.
at any age.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I've thought out a specific age, but I would say that I think that generally speaking, it seems to be the case that most people typically get married or date within 4 years. That doesn't mean that everyone does. My parents have a 10-year age gap. They've done pretty well. Some people have a 15 age gap and they do really well. I'm not really talking about a number specifically. I'm more asking like if this relationship is supposed to be so that you can have kids because you want a more traditional family paradigm, right? Is having a major age gap really going to be conducive to you forming that family structure? I think for many families, like the potential of losing you as a grandparent is emotionally and often, frankly, financially difficult, right? Parents often rely on grandparents for childcare. They rely on them for babysitting. They rely on them for advice, for nurturance, for resources as they get older. It's not a non-concern as you are getting on in years.
Well, to piggyback off of that, my husband has had to swallow the pill that he will probably never have a child of his own unless I kick the bucket sometime soon. That is the reality of the situation. According to my hormone levels, we need help to have a baby. He knew it. I told him, I'm like, hi, I'm 30. I have 2 kids. Like, I have children. He does not. He regret it? I don't know.
Insta
He's never
family,
going to admit
right?
it to me unless he's walking out the door,
Bonus
right?
family.
Like he's not going to be like, I regret this now. But like that was a reality of a situation that we had to talk about because I was like, bro, I love you. I really did not want him to be with me if he was going to be like, let's wait to have kids, because I knew the reality of the situation. What if we
It's
can't
good
have
communication.
kids? Yeah, and
Well, but that's a reality that you expected to understand the full gravity of at 21 years old, which I don't think that you really can.
I think that's a weird amount of
Not everybody.
responsibility for future predictions. If I meet somebody and I fall in love with them and I want to spend the rest of my life with them, that's a moment where me and that person, I think we have a pretty strong right to be selfish and experience our love the way we want to have it. And it doesn't matter what's going to happen down the road. If this is what we think is best for us, then that's what's best for us. And if down the road it causes weird problems that like are honestly impossible to predict and it's just maybe more likely, I'm gonna go with that. And I think I have that right to be happy and have like a romantically fruitful life.
that was my
I
husband's
think
stance.
I think that also depends on like society, like cultural factors as well, right? I feel like in America, more people are gonna answer like, well, I'm gonna kind of do it and not necessarily think too much about what my future grandchildren are gonna be like,
But some
because it's
cultures are
more.
wrong.
Well, but
Wick.
like you understand how like you understand how like basically in another culture, like in a South Asian culture, for example, like people are already getting on me like, when am I going to have a child? Because oh,
Yes.
you don't want to be like blah blah
Yes.
blah. So that sort of thing. So
I don't know if you guys do this,
I-
but I certainly do. But like my partner and I made it clear to each other that just because we were in love doesn't mean we were going to be together, because we actually had like a resume criteria for our partners, because we had a goal for our life as individuals. Like we're both grown, we had goals, we had lives already created. So I don't do whirlwind romances anymore. So I think that's also maybe like the planning in my brain is like I don't, not just because of babies, but because of my life.
You had a checklist
I
that
think
you made
I
him like
think
I have a
sign
checklist. Yeah,
did you do like an
exactly.
interview?
Yeah, like
I think
literally a checklist.
You
So
don't
I
have
think
a checklist, Wick?
Not
I think
so
when
I'm just saying, like,
specifically as
even if you fall
that.
in love, it doesn't really mean anything in terms of cohabitation or commitment or long-term relationship. So, like, every type of
True.
relationship will require different things. So, I feel
Love
like
it.
we keep like moving
expecting
around
something.
that, right?
I'm not expecting something, but I also want something at the same time.
Well, I expect something because I want something and I need something.
Yeah,
So, like, I either get what I want or I'm like good to go single. And then I'll have like loverships and short-term relationships and stuff. But like, if we're talking long-term commitment, I'm gonna move my life around you. I got a checklist, you know?
People can make changes for you though if it's the right person.
Well,
If the values are aligned,
there's
sure.
Brittany, do you agree? Like, there's deal breakers, and then there's stuff that's like, maybe this could be I think that's really all you're talking about, right? Because I've heard
Right.
you say before, like anything, like you are set with like what you believe and structures like that. Like, so obviously you want to find the person who shares that, because the age doesn't matter. If you don't share the same foundation, your relationship is probably going to shit. That's the
So
reality.
I agree with that, but I will say for me, age is a factor. So I don't
Oh
date.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. For me personally, I just find like I cannot get it through my head. Like I've never met a younger person that I thought was interesting. I certainly didn't like them when I was young.
Damn.
And then on top of that, like I've
Damn.
already, I've dated younger. I'm okay dating younger, but not like beyond like 5 years really.
So
Right.
I'd like to touch on that too. I've, and this is not to, I don't want to be negative about anybody's
Be
relationship. but
negative.
You
Do
can be
it.
negative. Some of these
That's why I
relationships
want to
are
hear
really
more from
toxic.
Boots.
Oh,
Boots is-
But I
Pause.
think that when we're talking about being in a relation, I've heard many of these conversations. We talk about them about in terms of a contract, like what we can negotiate, right? I want this and you want this, and we can meet together. And I think that that's a fair and very reasonable way. But I also think that there are many aspects of being with somebody where I'm not there just to get something out of you, right? I'm not there just so that you can give me something. I'm there because I want to give you something, right? I don't want just to get something out of you. I want this to be something that is for you at the same time, right? Like, so when I'm thinking about dating somebody, I'm not just thinking about what situation is going to be best for me. I'm also thinking about how can I be the best person that this person needs me to be, right? And I think that that's a very reasonable way a lot of people approach their relationships, right? I mean, I've known people, just for me personally, like
Look,
part of the reason
younger
I don't.
people all need an older mentor. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well, it's not,
Right?
well,
They
It's
all
good for me to
do.
be 50
Yeah,
and you
it's not
for
mentoring
you to
somebody
be
if
18.
you just stick your dick in them. Wick.
If
Sorry.
I ever had to look at my husband like I was his mentor, I can't say on.
But it's I'm not
But
really.
you
I can't say on Twitter.
are his mentor. Like you're
not talking-
teaching him about like what life is because he didn't know life before you.
Well, he knew his life. He knew he
Okay.
wanted to get married. He,
Life,
he
which was very limited. Like, did he
Right,
join
yeah.
military right after high
This
school?
condescending nonsense.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
kind of
I mean,
taking
it's
issue with
not
how dumb
condescending,
you're
it's
considering
honest.
every single
Boots,
20-year-old.
That's
No,
not
I
really
which,
want
what.
Boots
that's not
to
really what
talk.
I
I
mean.
want Boots to talk. I want everyone else to listen.
Like,
Boots, your time to
which
shine. Go ahead.
of you guys at 21 years old knew life, like understood who you
Barry, you
were?
have an echo.
Okay, but I
I
don't know if I
there's
believe
You're
you, but I
autistic, though,
yeah,
will
you
trust you on
we have
that.
personal problems. So with that
Yeah.
aside, then like
Well, we
You
don't
might have a
personal problems, and
definition
you
that
raised your hand
precludes
and I
me
just think
from
you're
it.
autistic, so.
No, I mean, like, you might have, and that's fine. Like, that's excellent for you. But I think the vast majority of people at 21 are like either they're getting out of high school and going directly into the military, where they don't have the chance to experience like the trials and tribulations of like everyday life, and they don't learn how to interact with people in the correct way, and they don't learn about themselves.
High school,
They just
the
learn
military
about
is
what
the
they're
average
supposed to do.
experience.
I didn't.
No, I'm referencing
they're referencing the.
I'm referencing her
Okay.
relationship.
Okay.
Or they're in like uni just having to follow the same template as they did in high school without ever like having the chance to grow on their own. And I think that's really important.
But I think that's also assuming that every human is exactly the same. We can talk
Can I
about
roll
I mean,
down the hill
humans
with the
are
ball
the
really quick?
same. Yes, humans are the same. Like
No,
everybody has
it's
different
not.
experiences, but we're all different.
You might be cookie cutter, but the rest of us got personalities. No, like people are individuals. Like people experience life uniquely.
husband knew he
21-year-old
wanted to be
people are
married
getting
at
married.
Yeah, I
husband
mean,
knew at 12 he wanted to
uniquely
be
when you
married,
like
that was
when you're differentiating between people, but we all have similar life experiences enough to be able to talk about them, enough to be able to call what you have is what is it?
You mean
you're not
like relate
bipolar.
enough to relate to each other, right?
Yeah, enough to be able to say this is a classification of people, this is a problem that people have, this is something that we should do for these people. Like that's what we do for people. We all have related experiences.
Yeah, but like Christian, like people like my brother got married in his 20s with his wife, and they have 4 kids, and they make like 100K, and they have a farmhouse and 20 acre. Like it's not the same. They're living a totally different life than me. I needed to have many relationships. He needed to have like one. Like, you know, he needs to have like maybe 3 max. She needed to have one. He was like, that was her first real relationship, right? Like not everyone needs the same thing. But I will
Yeah.
say generally, like depending on the bubble you're talking about, sure. But like the Christian bubble working different.
Okay, but those two people have grown together.
There's a little bit of an age gap, but sure. Like, yeah.
I mean, if it's his first relationship and it's her first relationship, then that seems to be like fine. They're learning each other and learning about other people through that relationship. So like, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything
so we're
wrong.
good. So it's not the age gap. It's like if there's a 40-year-old virgin and like a 21-year-old with no experience, they're good to go. Just checking.
Yeah, but I think that's very rare.
Interesting. Okay, then okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm more willing to accept that but that kind of gets back to Drowsy's point that it's just a proxy anyway, which is.
Do you guys think it's weird if somebody is married to their high school sweetheart and that's like the only relationship they've ever had? Because I think that's fucking
to be
wild.
perfectly honest, a little. I think they
Yeah.
would probably serve both of them a little
If they
better
get to have a little more experience, a little more fun.
if they, we're out there. I know I personally am uncomfortable with the idea that the person that I'm with, I'm their very first and only relationship. I'm a little bit.
Yeah, I don't like that. They're
I
gonna
don't mind
expect too much of
it.
me.
I don't
They're
think
gonna
that's
expect
I
too
don't
much of
think
me.
I don't mind it partially because like the person like I had relationships, right? But for the most part, any of my what I would call adult relationships was with one person, and I dated that person for 13 years and then I married him 2 years ago. So like we very much grew together.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I'm biased because I'm on the side of our relationship is good, but I don't think that's necessarily a red flag.
I don't think it's a red flag either.
Yeah.
What the
I mean, in the
question
sense
was,
that-
is it a little weird? And I think I think
So no, I have a question. I have a question because this is an interesting spin on things, right? Because so Boots, what you're saying is that the experience differential is the thing. Someone with a very little experience and someone with a lot of experience creates a problem. Is that basically it?
Yeah.
So basically,
It's like you're imprinting your experience onto somebody
you
who's
wouldn't
less
want
experienced.
a woman with a high body count going with someone a man who doesn't have.
Can you not phrase it that way?
I mean,
but
that's a
just-
perfect
Isn't that
analogy,
same
no?
as-
No, it's not.
Yeah.
High body
That is
count has nothing
literally-
to do with how much
What?
experience in relationships
What?
that you have. It
Your
has to do with
sexual
emotional
Well,
experience.
my husband
maturity.
was a red flag because he was a virgin, and now it doesn't matter.
Wait, yeah, wait, that's
this is
wait,
so
I
that's
didn't
so
say that your
what
husband
the
was a
fuck?
red flag because he's a virgin. I said
No, I'm not you
this is about
specifically,
emotional
general.
maturity. And you develop emotional maturity by having emotional connections with other people. So no, it's not about body count. It's not about how many people you fuck. It's about how many people you are
think
able
how
to
many
connect
people you
with and
fuck
learn
doesn't relate
from.
to your
Wait,
emotional
hold on.
maturity?
No,
If
it
I can-
doesn't.
Wait, if I can agree with the idea that the amount of people that you can have a very close relationship with and build with is a part of your maturity, then I don't understand how at least your sexual experiences and those people that you could learn from wouldn't correlate with that.
What do you
How would
learn
that
by
not
having a
correlate?
one-night stand?
You can learn whether or not you like one night stands, how you like one night stands.
How
You
What
can
do you
learn
learn
about
about
like
people?
actually,
Sex?
you're going to learn about actually interacting with people to be able to get to that point. Like, what do you mean? There's a lot of people who
So you learn
literally
how
just
to
don't
do
have the
how to pick
social
up
knowledge.
people and how to like make people come.
Well, it's
No,
also
no, wait.
no, it's
Let's
not
not be
just that. It's not just
reductive. Like,
that.
let's not be reductive like that. Like, for instance, my roommate, absolute giga chad. He's really good at being able to have people come over, have a really nice time, and be able to potentially sleep with them in one night. And that it's not like he's just like, oh yeah, whatever. No, he's really good at being able to make people feel special and have that moment feel really unique and impactful to these people in a short period of time. The idea
So how
that this
mature
isn't
do you
useful
reckon
or
he
skill-
is?
in regards to that, I think he's
No,
very
just
mature.
like in general. Like, would
Oh,
you
in
consider
general,
him?
I think he's very immature.
So,
yeah.
do you think that like, so if he's had like a bunch of experience, if we're translating this, do you think this would be like, would you put this next to like a 40-year-old woman who like dated?
Well, no, because this breaks
like,
down.
I don't
Because
understand what you're
I have
saying.
almost
Doesn't-
no experience, and I consider myself to be very mature. You disagree with that? I know we got problems, but like in contrast, right? I'm somebody that's actually a homeowner. Recently sold my house. Right, I'm taking care of my Alzheimer's-ridden mother and help with my brother. Right, the idea that like this that. People need experiences to be mature. Like this dude, both of my roommates should be infinitely more mature than I am. But the fact
But they're
of the
not
matter
having
is they're not.
the experiences
They're
I'm
having
talking about.
Wait, what kind of experiences are you talking
I'm
about?
talking about experiences where you emotionally are able to connect and sort of do
Yeah,
like
one of
a
them's
ping
married.
pong.
One of them's
ping pong
married.
thing off. Yeah.
Do you think that's more experience than me, whose like longest relationship was like a year and a half?
I mean, yes, when it comes to like
So why is he
relating
less
to, as long
mature
as
than
it's a
me?
good marriage.
So why is he
I'm
less
not
mature
saying
than me?
I'm not saying he's less mature.
No, okay.
Your
I think by
metric for
most
Levels
people.
maturity is buying a
maturity
house.
different.
Oh, I don't.
Fight,
I'm not
fight,
going
fight.
by that.
All right. Yeah, you're right. We are defining maturity differently. I don't know by what metric I would be less mature.
I mean, I don't think
That's been
being
this whole
mature is
discussion.
like being what your parents did when you were younger, or like what the ideal was. I don't think that's maturity. I think maturity is being able to understand that and understand other people and understand yourself, most importantly, and understand how you can relate to other people.
So then
So you think he can't relate to other people? You think he can't? Like, what?
Oh no, really? Like, are you trying to make us fight?
So my
Beef
issue.
about him being immature.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we have some long-standing.
So
beef.
what is the?
Now, I want to get
like...
Julie in on this beef. Julie, what do you think
Yeah,
of Boots?
let's throw
not
hands.
liking,
Let's throw hands. Let me in here.
Yeah. Julie, what do you think of Boots saying irrelevance immature? What do you think of that?
Well, I need to know, like, what exactly about him do you think is immature?
I think that he doesn't understand himself as well as he thinks he does. I think that he understands maturity as a goal to reach. That's something that like you can do by doing these specific steps, and I don't think that that's the case. And I also don't think that he's able to relate to others in a healthy way yet. I think that he still thinks of relationships as being very transactional, and I think that's a very immature way of looking at relationships.
So you think older women shouldn't date irrelevant because he's too immature
Well,
at this point?
Time have you actually spent like interacting
No,
with
don't
him?
take it from me, Wick. Come on.
No. How much time have you actually spent like interacting with him and like getting to know him and like seeing him as a person rather than these debate panels?
Well,
To make that type of critique.
Yeah, no, I haven't because I don't live close to him, so we don't hang out. But all I can go based on is the 8 hours a day that's streamed and the conversations that I've heard with people who disagree with him, which is all we can really do for any of the people on this panel. So that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about people that we know personally.
And to add on to that, to be fair, like even if we were talking about an age gap relationship, all we can go off is like what either what they tell us, like what with Flip here, right? Or if we see them in person, all we are seeing is like the very small window into their lives. And we don't have like half of that.
That's what I'm saying. You don't really know this person to make these type of judgments.
We're looking at this space.
Yes and no.
Like,
right?
what are you?
One of the most mature
no.
people I've ever met in interacting in this space, like by a mile. Like you are.
Yes, I agree.
I don't know anybody who I think has ever spoken about their own experience in such a genuine and like introspective way as him, and that's one of the reasons why I really like and respect. That's what makes him stand out to me. If that's not,
I think that he's on the way to maturity. But
check your PayPal, $20 right there, Draws. I appreciate the shout out.
I mean, I think that's not to say that he's not mature either, right? It's just that he just doesn't meet like Boots' definition of maturity.
But I said earlier, maturity is the thing that used to shame people when they don't think like we do. That's it.
Wait, hold on. Can I get Boots' definition one more time? I'm a little confused.
Yeah, so it's more self-realization, like being able to look at yourself and say, okay, well, these are the things that I want, and these are the things that are important to me, not because they were told that they were important to me, but because they are genuinely important to me.
Isn't Irrelevant one of the most picky people online? Isn't that why he's an incel?
It has nothing to do with being picky.
Wait, what? Wait, isn't knowing what you want and then not settling? Wait, isn't knowing what you want and not settling?
Yeah, but picky has like a neurotic connotation. I'm not saying like he's.
Sorry, maybe I'm using the wrong words. I'm trying to understand.
Okay, can we maybe settle on choosy? Would that be a better?
We'll let
thing?
Boots say what you say.
Selective.
No.
So like that's but dismissing people because of like these silly traits or like saying that I don't like this, but not that you're
Silly
doing
traits
this
like
because of. No, not
I
silly
love you.
traits like age. Age is a very significant trait.
Wait, but hold on. He's just picky. Does that make him immature for being picky?
No, I'm. The reason that I think that he is immature is more specific than that, and it's the way that he generalizes like women and the dating market, and this is the way that it has to be. And when you interact with these people, it's just going to be like this. Even if you don't like it, this is what is necessary. I don't think that that's mature.
I don't want to turn this panel into just me. If you want to have a back and forth about those specific claims, we can.
I think the disagreement is very obvious.
If
but
I
I'm
can
not
hop
going to get
in-
into it.
If I can hop in for just a second, so I just like to say, Boots, you're lovely. Irrelevant.
I love Boots.
Irrelevant. You seem to be a very introspective and thoughtful person. You seem to be very mature to me. I like both of you. I hope that the bridge, if it is burned, that it will be built.
I'll rebuild it myself.
But I will say that I do want to back up what Boots is saying a little bit, and I don't claim to have a definition of what it means to be mature.
Team Boots coming out strong. Go ahead, Fairy Queen.
Well, I don't claim to know precisely what it is to be mature, what it doesn't mean to be mature. What I will say is I do have experiences, like in my early 20s and when I was 19, of dating people who were older, who, frankly, if I had been at the same age as they were, I probably would not have dated those people. I probably would have made very different decisions if I, instead of like being 19 and dating a 24-year-old, I was 24-year-old me dating that same 24-year-old man. I don't think I would have made that same decision. Now, what precise experience required me to make that different decision, I don't know. And I don't claim to know specifically what it was. What I'm saying is, I think that experience is one that a lot of people can relate to. That if you had been in a different position, if you had been at roughly the same age as that person, you might not have chosen to date them. I think that's all we really mean when we say.
If I may,
confirmed by your
just
experience
real
dating
quick,
them at
if
that
I may,
age.
Fairy Queen, that isn't just about age. Like I can imagine a situation if I'm in a different socioeconomic status where I would make different decisions. I can imagine if I'm living in a different country making different like different.
Yeah, but we're talking about something that necessarily changes.
Different. Yes, I'm going to make different change.
All of those affect your maturity.
I infected your brain. You said changes.
Yeah, I know you infected my brain. I got brain worms, and you are the source. It's a CTD.
Can I dig them up and use them for
disease.
bait? I'm trying to
Yes,
fish.
you can. You
If
can
I
dig
if
my
I
brain
may,
later.
if
But the whole point is, right? Like we can all imagine situations where if we were not in the same position we would make different decisions. But I don't think that like that's necessarily the fault of age as a rule, right? Like I think that's just going to be if you're in a different position, its variables are different. You'll make different decisions. Yeah.
Everybody's parents raises them differently.
It's kind of weird to use age as a jumping off point to say if things were different, then things would have been different. Like, yeah, that's everything.
But to me, and maybe I'm just hopelessly romantic and silly about this, to me, when you're choosing your partner, you're choosing them because despite the circumstances, in spite of what circumstances may come, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, they are your person. You love them and you don't care. And if they were hit tomorrow by a car and that God forbid they were in a wheelchair,
Agree.
you'll be with them, right? I mean, that to me is like what it means.
I think when you're getting into that relationship, there are certain things that can turn you off, and age is definitely one of those things that can.
It's not just turning off, right? It's about this. There are lots of people who you can feel attracted to. Who you
No, sorry. I say turning off not as a sexual thing, but turning off is like maybe I shouldn't be in this relationship. They're 15 years older than me.
Well, but like I think that it may be very legitimate that you might find your person who might be older than you.
Yes, I agree, 100%. But I don't think that's the majority.
What I'm saying, no, I don't know that it's necessarily the majority either, and I don't think the data points that up because I think most people wind up in relationships with people roughly within that 4-year age gap.
100%.
But I think what I'm saying is that's why I think it matters to me that looking retrospectively that I wouldn't have made the same decision, right? Because I want to be with a person who, regardless of whether their hair is white, regardless of whether they become disfigured, regardless of what happens to them, I have chosen to be with them because of who they are, whether we're poor, whether we're rich, and whether they are all the way across the planet.
Whether they're 40 or whether they're 20, right?
Well, I mean, in some cases that might legitimately be the case, but I think
don't know, though. I don't think it's the same for me.
You're
I
making
think if
such
I was
strong
at a
case for
bar,
age gaps and then pulling back only on age gaps here. That's so weird.
Well, I think what I'm saying is the reason why I doubt the age gap is based off of just personal experience and based off of relationships that I've seen and witnessed, right?
well, as age gaps widen, relationships as age gaps widen. As age gaps widen, statistics seem to show that that relationships suffer more as age gaps widen.
This is I want to point out this chatter. Portland is burning says forget body count. How many WIC TV panels has she been on?
I've been on 7. This might be my 7th now, Wick. I've been keeping count.
Oh no.
Damn. Yo, you're ran
7's
through.
my lucky number, baby.
Rest in pepperonis.
Okay.
Can I ask a question,
Nick? I just want to say because
I just want to know: do you guys think we put more responsibility on romantic relationships and like being president or less? Because you know, you have to be 35 to be president.
Yeah.
Like,
I think you should be older to be president of the United States.
I'm an ageist.
I think we should remove that that restriction.
I almost think you should be older.
I'm just saying. I wonder what responsibility we're really putting on
President
people
of a
to
whole
bond.
country. You should be between the ages of 40 and 60. No later, no earlier.
Okay, I don't know if we want Jerry reaction.
What the fuck?
But like that's what I'm saying. I wonder why this conversation has become like all of our biggest fears instead of what are we seriously dealing with and
can
why.
I ask you guys something? Did you guys see the Canadian Parliament giving a round of applause to someone that's a Nazi?
The 93-year-old Nazi, yeah.
Oh wait, no, but it makes sense
so
though.
funny.
It makes sense to be concerned about relationships because relationships are really formative for how you interact with other people. The president doesn't matter in my daily life, but my partner does.
Well, the president does matter in your daily. He runs
No,
the
he
country.
doesn't.
What?
No, he doesn't. How old are you?
Me?
Yes.
25 and retarded. Thank you.
Okay, I get the second part.
Thank you.
I just feel like relationships are also non-romantic.
How old are you, Boots?
Oh no.
I'm 30.
You hit the wall. Gotcha.
I think
Oh my god. Wait.
Anyway.
Jesus.
I think I'm the
Okay,
oldest
I
one
passed the wall. I've
Boots,
ran
you're
into
not
the
30.
ground.
I'm never gonna forget that you said that to me, but okay.
Also, wait, hold on. Can I say something? I'm also Canadian, so American politics don't matter as much to me.
Oh no.
That's fine. I'm Australian, so American politics matter not at all to me.
So
Okay.
none of
Are
you.
you?
I know Australia, Britain taking over. Let's go.
I have a tangential question for
Flip, go
Boots
ahead.
and
Give it a go.
Sad Kit Kat, just because I'm trying to understand, because I do
Sure.
live in the U.S. And Boots, I know
Mhm.
you said the president, or I don't remember which one of you said the president really doesn't affect your life. The president is a
That wasn't
huge
me.
fucking deal in like lives down here. Like they can really fuck up a day. Is that just how things are in Australia and Canada?
No,
This is
not
totally
me. That was
No,
irrelevant.
but I'm saying
the
that
prime
the
minister definitely fucks things up in Canada.
yeah, like
But,
I mean, they can be very influential, but I'm talking about in your day-to-day life, you're going to have more interactions like with your partner than you
I'm
are with the
actually-
That's fair.
president.
That's
So
fair.
that's
I'm
why
actually
that
on
matters
Major's
more.
side with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do
that
we-
makes sense. Yes.
Bro,
That's
how do we?
crazy.
Sorry, how did we get from
We
your
got on the
relationship with your
president.
partner to your relationship with your fucking president?
You did
Sorry.
this.
Did I do? Did
No,
I do
Brittany,
it?
Brittany did it. Brittany did it. Blame
I'm
her.
Okay,
asking
Brittany
about the
did it.
I'm not
responsibility
doing it,
we
baby
put on
girl.
people.
Damn
Can
you,
we talk
Brittany.
about if an age gap relationship with your president is okay or not?
Oh
Panel
no.
for next time.
I think if you want a really old president, you just want a daddy.
Okay.
So.
We've kind of circled the drain here. We've kind
Okay,
of
wait,
milked
hold
this
on, wait.
cow.
I have something really quick.
Okay,
In
really
some
quick.
ways, age is age gaps are a problem. When you talk about grooming, predatory things, or whatever, we all
Barry,
know
you're
it. We all
echoing.
see it. I don't think anyone disagrees. But for a lot of people, such as myself, it was when I put the age aside that I got to actually know this man and realize, holy shit, these 30-year-olds that I'm trying to date, this is the actual person that I want. He is what I want. And had I not put that age aside, that would have been the problem. So to me, I feel like it's more of a preference. If your preference is nothing below this, mazel, because that's your preference. But I don't think we should
What about
automatically
nothing
side
above this?
or
as a
nothing
preference?
above. It's a preference.
I think
I
the
don't
majority of
mind
people
You
doing
can
that.
judge people's preferences.
But
Absolutely.
so that's what I'm saying.
Based.
If you side eye somebody for it, that's your right to side eye for them for it. I have no problem with that either. I'm just saying, like,
I think the majority of people
remember, they're not all
don't have
predatory, that's
preferences for these things for a reason. Right?
Repeat that.
The majority of people don't have preferences. Fuck.
Wait, I
Hold
think the
on.
majority of people have age preferences.
Yeah.
No, they don't. They don't have a preference for someone that's way older than them for a reason.
Oh. Perhaps.
I mean, don't a majority of people have an age preference for somebody around their
But
age?
there's a 3 to 4 year age preference. There's not a 10, 15, 20 year age preference for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a reason. And on that note, gang, on that note, I am hungry. I'm tired. I have appreciated.
Some ramen. He's making ramen. He's gonna pop
already
ramen on the
made
stove.
ramen. I'm gonna have pizza. I think I'm gonna have a stuffed crust.
Let's
pepperoni
go.
Pizza.
Yes.
What kind of pizza? What kind of pizza?
Stuffed crust pepperoni pizza. I don't know what to tell you.
Hawaiian's way better. You should feel bad about yourself.
Well,
Kick
tell
her.
you what, you make me a pizza and I will eat that pizza. But until you
Okay,
make
I'm
me a
popping
pizza, I'm
up
gonna
with
eat the pizza.
Hawaiian. What are you gonna do?
Fair enough. Okay. Well, you know
said
what?
eat the
We'll see
pizza.
when I say it. But for now, gang, if you've enjoyed this content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, consider subbing to the channel, consider throwing bits, consider super chatting. I appreciate you all. We are going to raid out tomorrow. We're going to have Smeth on, and Smeth thinks that Pixie is a predator.
Let's go.
Pixie thinks that Pixie.
I said let's go, but I don't agree. Pixie, don't be mad at me. I don't agree.
Wait, like Pixie the streamer?
Yeah, Pixie the streamer.
What?
Pixie made a
Because she
tweet.
posted on her Twitter about wanting a specific type of man.
And was trying to like get her followers to
People
Smith
can
had
have
big problems with that.
preferences.
So we're gonna talk because I have big problems with Smith on this take, and so it'll be an
I'm gonna
interesting
throw hands.
conversation.
I'm coming
watching.
uppercuts.
I'm
Yeah,
watching.
it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
I'm hitting
So that's
uppercuts.
tomorrow.
Excited.
Wednesday, where it's the
I'm here for Pixie.
Wednesday's Republican primary presidential debates. We're gonna be covering that again. And then Thursday, we're going to have Short Fat Otaku, Dev, is going to be debating Karl Marx on free speech, and that's going to be fun. So, and then Friday, we got 6 p.m. Eastern, we got Allison coming on to tell us about why we are failing the mentally ill. And that'll be fun as well. So for now, though, we're going to raid out. Are any of you on here going to keep streaming after this?
I'm on Twitch. Yep, I'm chilling.
Okay, then I guess
still
we're
super
going
hungry.
Sad Kit Kat.
Wait,
Let's
Wick,
go.
can you you said tomorrow at what time are you having that conversation with
6
Smith?
p.m. Eastern. If you want to
Thank
join
you.
us, you're more than welcome.
I just might.
I might pop in.
No,
Wait, Wick, that's so fucked. You didn't even ask Smeth first.
Brittany Simon, I'm a huge fan.
Sorry. Who said that?
I'm honored.
Oh, by the way, I agree with Brittany's smell test. If you smell bad,
True.
I care more
My
about that than
armpits
damage.
stink right now. My
True.
armpits fucking
I'm gonna do you a
stink.
Yeah,
favor
but if
and
it's
dip.
good
Thanks for
for you-
having me.
Okay.
All
I
right.
love you all. We're
Thanks,
ready now.
guys.
Bye
This
bye.
was
Jesus, got kind of nutty at the end there. I still really want to stream some Mortal Kombat. I might stream that when my wife goes to bed. I did some practicing. I have like issues with my hands and wrist, and boy, I fucked up my arm playing Mortal Kombat. But I got some combos down, and it should be a lot better than it was. I just might have to wear my wrist brace when I play. That's it for now. I'm still planning on doing a panel on Thursday. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, I just haven't come up with a topic yet. So, if I can come up with a topic, I'll have one. If not, then I'll just like do like a filler stream on Thursday. Cause or maybe not. Maybe if I have it, I might push it back. I would like to play a new Disney game, Lorcana, in person events because they give away prizes that are a ton of money. That's it for me for now. Back on later. If you guys were chatting, thanks a bunch. I know Toby, you're Twitch. And I have to have Twitch on my phone because I can't log into my Twitch on my computer. And Saxon, I appreciate you chatting it up on YouTube. I do have a panel this week. I want to, because I just gotta come up with a topic that I care about. I won't do one that I don't care about. Then I'll put it on Twitter and stuff. And hopefully, if you're watching this and you like it, you also Twitter. Thank you very much, Toby. But that's it. I'm gonna try to eat some food and spend some time with my wife before she's got to go to bed.